Put his ass in jail. Scotty Scheffler, the world #1 golf player, arrested outside Valhalla Golf Club this morning. He's just screaming at the cop, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. Man, this is a wild story coming out of Louisville this morning, Cole.
Wild.
Unbelievable. Okay, I know some of you already know what's going on, but hey, if you've been busy all day, working all day, or this is the only sports media you consume.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that of you. You Tolos, you P1s, you great Americans who only listen to this show to get your sports news. We'll get you caught up on what's going on out there. This is Wire to Wire. My name is Diesel. This is Cole Bryson across from me, the very handsome Cole Bryson, right here on a Friday afternoon. Show number 40. Show's turning 40 today, man. It's crazy.
Let's go, man. Yeah, that is wild. Time flies
soon,
when you're having fun, Diesel.
Pretty soon it's going to have to get the old check up the back door. You know, that's how it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But if you hadn't heard yet, guys, world #1 golfer Scotty Scheffler was arrested by Louisville Metro Police today, trying to drive into the main entrance of Valhalla Golf Club, the site of this week's PGA Championship. All of this is coming from the ESPN story. Traffic outside the golf course had been stopped after a man was unfortunately struck and killed by a shuttle bus at around 5 a.m. this morning. Scotty faces charges of second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer directing traffic. I didn't even realize that was a crime.
Felony,
like
man.
An actual crime of disregarding the traffic signals. I mean, Cole, we've all been in traffic going to games, going to concerts, this, that, whatever. Sometimes their traffic signals can get a little confusing. It's like when they do the sweepy motion, instead of just the you go that way, they do the sweep. Sure. Wait a minute. So am I supposed to loop around? Where am I going here? But no, this incident involves Major Jason Lodgson of the Louisville Metro Police Department. Scotty was released at 8:40 this morning without bail. He arrived with less than an hour before his scheduled tee time at 10:08. Cole, this is just it's an unfortunate situation. Here's a quote from Scotty. He says, "This morning I was proceeded as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably so, considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier. There was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. I never intended to disregard any of the instructions. I'm hopeful to put this to the side and focus on golf today." Cole, Scotty Scheffler is one of the most boring milquetoast dudes in the game right now. Like, you really think this dude is out there living real life GTA?
So I do not think he was.
No,
I don't think he was. I'll say this: when you bring up the point, Diesel, about the guy waving the arm, trying to get you to go in this direction, one thing that I saw on Twitter, and I did retweet this tweet earlier today, 5 hours ago. You can follow me on Twitter at the Cole Bryson. He's at Diesel on Radio. There was a tweet, Diesel, that said, Scotty told the police officer, "I didn't know you were a police officer." Below that, there were two pictures. There was one during the daylight after the incident. There was one in the exact location at 5 a.m. in the dark and rain. Yeah. He has on a bright yellow hooded jacket, and there's no way to tell if it's a cop, if it's just Rent-A-Cop, Paul Blart. There's no way of telling who it is, right?
Could have been a Valhalla Club employee wearing a yellow jacket.
Could have been. Unfortunately, there was an incident where a worker was hit in the road. It was a fatality earlier that morning, and that's what caused this backup. It is sad. It's tragic, right? So Scotty turning in, Diesel, didn't see if the guy was a cop or not, pulled in. Yeah, I think Scotty probably should have just stopped and handled the situation a little bit different now. If he could go back and redo it, right, I'm sure he'd do something different. But I just woke up this morning and saw the picture of him in handcuffs and could not. I didn't know what happened. I saw it on Twitter. I turned on SportsCenter. It blew my mind.
Here's the accounting, Cole, from ESPN reporter Jeff Darlington, who was there. He witnessed the incident happen. He said that Scheffler was trying to drive around the crash scene on a median. A police officer instructed Scheffler to stop, but Scheffler continued to drive about 10 to 20 yards towards the entrance. At one point, an officer attached himself to the side of Scheffler's car. Scheffler stopped his car as he turned into the entrance of Valhalla Golf Club. After about 20 to 30 seconds, Scheffler rolled down his window to talk to the officer. The officer grabbed Scheffler's arm to pull him out of the vehicle. The officer reached inside the vehicle to open the door, and once Scheffler was pulled out, he was pushed against the car and placed in handcuffs. Darlington was standing at the entrance when Scheffler was detained. Darlington said Scheffler turned to him and asked, "Can you help?" According to Jeff Darlington of ESPN, an officer instructed him to back away. "You need to get out of the way," the officer told Darlington. "Right now, he's going to jail, and there's nothing you can do about it." The officer, identified in the arrest report as Detective Gillis, excuse me, I misspoke earlier, was dragged, quote, to the ground and suffered pain, swelling, and abrasions to his left wrist. And after the car accelerated forward, the officer was dressed in a high visibility reflective jacket when he stopped Scheffler's car to give instructions. Gillis again was taken to the hospital for his injuries. Scheffler's attorney, Stephen Romanez, told ESPN that the golfer attempted to enter the golf club as he had been instructed to earlier, unaware that there had been a fatal wreck just up the road. Quote, "He was going into Valhalla to work out. He was getting ready for his tee time. They were directing traffic. He held his credential out and was going in like they'd been instructed to."
So what's interesting about that is, Diesel, he was in a car that was clearly labeled official car of the PGA Tour. So did the officer latch himself on? Like, I think the word latch might be a little extreme. By the way, Jeff Darlington did a fantastic job with his coverage all morning as I was watching most of it. But the word latch, man, that makes it sound like he just, all
I thought he was on the hood.
On the hood. I don't like that word. I don't like the word latch. Yeah. Did he grab the door handle? I mean, that's the best way
you can. A Fast and the Furious
movie? That's what I'm saying. How do you latch yourself onto a car? So I'll say this. Scheffler probably in the moment didn't have a clue what was going on.
Yeah.
However, good people, as the texter pointed out, and I'm glad you said that, texter, good people do make mistakes. I believe it was a mistake on both Scheffler and the officer involved. Here is the audio you were referring to, Diesel. Jeff Darlington literally was trying to allow them, the police officers, to know who it was they were arresting, because Scheffler didn't pull the "do you know who I am" card. Here was Darlington recording the incident. That's Jeff Darlington's voice right there you're hearing. So now he's following Scotty Scheffler. And that's where you hear Scheffler say, "Can you help me?"
Yeah.
Do you think in that moment Scotty should have pulled the "do you know who I am" card?
He could have just said, "I'm playing in the tournament. I'm playing in the tournament. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I'm playing in the tournament." Look, I think the officer was, to the best of his ability in that split second, I think the officer was doing his job. Whether I don't expect him to know who Scotty Scheffler is by sight. He's a cop working a scene near a golf course early in the morning, in the dark, and in the rain. He's not a golf fan who would know Scotty Scheffler just by looking at him.
That's true.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously we weren't inside the vehicle. We don't know if Scotty was like, "Man, bleep this. I'm supposed to be here. I'm going around. They're not slowing me down." Or if he just genuinely misunderstood the officer's signals calling. And you and I both know when there are hairy situations like this, whether I'm not talking about just involving the police, just stressful situations in cars, sometimes your foot hits the wrong pedal. And I'm thinking it's possible that Scotty hit the wrong pedal when this whole thing where he lurched forward for 10 to 20 yards with the police officer clutched to the side of the vehicle.
Latched on all fours, glued to it. Let us know what you think. What was your immediate reaction when you saw this? I'd like to get the audience's thought. 71307. That's the text line. When you text the show, Wire to Wire, please start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. It's the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Diesel, when I initially saw this, I wanted to allow things to play out before I formed an opinion, right? But I'll tell you what shocks me more than anything right now at 3:09 p.m. on the 17th of May. What shocks me more than anything is that this dude has the mental capacity to be in second. He is in second place right now in the freaking PGA Championship.
I mean, could you imagine the bleep storm that would ensue if the officer legitimately hurt Scotty Scheffler? Like you hear all the time incidents where an officer breaks a suspect's arm, right? He could have dislocated his shoulder pulling him out of the car. I mean, my vision of it, because the way that it's described to me, they didn't say the officer opened the door and took him out of the car. My vision of it is he grabbed Scotty Scheffler by the shirt, by the shoulders, whatever, and pulled him out of the driver's side window. That's my vision of it. I could be wrong there, but I mean, this could have been way worse, for Scotty, and it could have really injured him. I look at it like both of these people, both Scotty Scheffler and the police officer, overreacted in a moment where things were moving quickly, a misunderstanding. That's really all it's chalked up to be. I would be shocked, Cole, if the charges weren't completely dropped. We're looking at Scotty in his mugshot right now.
Oh, God.
The crazy thing is, in the mugshot, he looks exactly like he does when he's out on the course. That mugshot looks like him saying, man, I'm going to go out here and rip this course a new one.
Now they're
-9, watch this.
Yeah, now they're showing him get to the golf course. Diesel, the internet, by the way, I know this is not a laughing situation. One day it will be. I'm talking about the situation with Scotty, not the person who was involved in a fatality. But the internet today, Twitter today, has been quite hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, hilarious. I saw where somebody said earlier they should have drove, instead of dropping Scotty off at the clubhouse, they should have just drove him to hole one, handed him a driver as he got out, and then just went up there and just went straight to the tee, straight to the tee box. Did you see what Governor Andy Beshear had to say? This was 30 minutes ago. Governor Andy Beshear, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize, Governor. This morning, an incident occurred outside the PGA Championship that resulted in the heartbreaking death of a fellow Kentuckian. Our hearts are broken, and we continue to pray for the victim's family. Governor Andy Beshear goes on to say, Diesel, the events that occurred afterward are the unfortunate result of this tragic incident, and we are hopeful that all parties involved can come to a resolution, a.k.a., Scotty, please don't sue us, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what the scene was like, Cole, but I mean, think about this. It's 5 a.m. Why are there so many cop cars at a golf course?
Scotty doesn't know.
It's raining and the road's blocked. Where's Scotty supposed to go?
Scotty doesn't know.
Is Scotty going to make his tee time?
Scotty doesn't know.
Scotty's going to jail. Is some big guy named Tank going to make him his world number one?
Scotty doesn't know. Oh, Scotty doesn't know. So don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know.
You're terrible. You are terrible. You're one of the terrible people out here laughing about this. I am too. Texter says green jacket, plaid jacket, and orange jumpsuit in 4 weeks, a feat that will never be duplicated.
I got to get me one of these free Scotty t-shirts.
Yeah.
Now, do you think those are memed, or are they already made in at the course?
Memes.
I've seen. Okay. I didn't know if these were photoshopped. I didn't know if these were memes. I mean, you never know. Man. You could drop print stuff quickly. I mean, if there's somebody who lives in Louisville, there's a big city nearby. There's somebody who makes t-shirts. I could see somebody already having this mugshot, putting it on a t-shirt and having it at the course
when you leave
by like 10 a.m.
There's the 3 guys on the corner with shirts.
Yeah. It says Scotty Scheffler. They messed up. They put the wrong guy's name on it. Yeah. They made a misspelling.
Scotty Spieth.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I thought about this morning? And this is not like funny, but I bring this up because this was one of the first things that I thought about. This happened around 5:30 in the morning. I wonder how Scotty's wife found out, because he was by himself, right? And I don't know. I know they just had a baby, and I don't know if she was there in Louisville with him or not. I wonder if the first call that she got was, this is a collect call from Louisville County. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine?
True story, Cole. When I was in college working at my college radio station, we had people from the local jail call the radio station to try to get their songs played. And I did a heavy metal show. And we used to get calls all the time, and it would ring to the studio line. It would say, "You're receiving a collect call from the Watauga County Detention Center, and in the space where somebody's supposed to say their name,
Yeah.
they would say, "Hey, play Metallica, Master of Puppets." Click,
That's
hang up.
funny.
It was so great.
Hey, by the way, Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele are now tied at 9 under.
Wow.
Another
Wiping out
texter-
that first day -9
Yeah,
for
just-
Xander.
I mean, just pretend like you didn't spend the morning in the penitentiary. Another texter, Diesel, says, I think someone Happy Gilmore'd him, hired guy to do that so they have a chance.
Wow. Madcraft says, my more immediate thought is that there should be another entrance for players and staff. Maybe
You
so.
can't, though. There's a lot of these courses, there's only one entrance, you know?
He also says announcers said that the T-shirts were already out there.
No
on the
way.
Course.
Are
That's
you
crazy
serious?
how fast they can make these things, man.
Oh, my God. I've got to see one.
How long does it take to make a T-shirt? 5 minutes?
I said on Twitter earlier,
All
he
you need is
should
a
have.
GIF.
Well, that's true. I
Or a
said
JPEG, excuse me.
I would have liked Diesel for him to tee off in the orange jumpsuit. Can you imagine how iconic?
If he had played in, even if he was in golf clothes, because you know the PGA, man,
Oh,
they're wonky and
What a
weird
shot.
about their regulations of what they can wear.
Yeah.
Why isn't Scotty Scheffler out there playing in orange from head to toe?
he should be.
Orange pants, orange shirt, orange hat. Oh man, that would be fantastic.
Shane and Duncan on the text line said the exact same thing.
Well, the question is, I mean, if he's out there, does that mean they've already dropped the charges?
No, they have not dropped
So
charges.
he's technically a fugitive at the moment. He's being charged with felonies,
Well,
but he has been released. So did he escape?
No, he was released.
Ah.
There's 2 misdemeanors and 1 felony that has to be resolved. So the owner, get this, the owner of the golf course in Louisville is the one that picked him up and took him back to the golf course.
Wow.
That's big time.
Yeah.
Now, here's the next part of that
It should have
question.
been a cop.
Well, it should have been.
Cop should have been the one to do it.
You know what? Scotty probably said, I don't want y'all taking me back. Are you kidding me? Quick question, and we'll come back to this before we go to break, Diesel. I'm glad you let it there because now, as they said this morning, Jeff Darlington pointed out, when this round's over, there's 3 charges that have to be resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you go from here?
Does he have that on the back of his mind? I mean, how do you put that out of
I
your
would.
mind? How do you put that out of your mind and play around knowing that I have to go deal with the police and a felony charge
I'm going to tell you this.
after this?
It'd be hard for me to be there. I'm not going to lie to you. It would be hard for me to be playing golf right now. That's tough, man.
When he finishes at 18, do you think he makes the turn back to the clubhouse or do you think he just sprints off into the woods?
I would like for him to sprint off. That'd be better. We'll come back to this. We're going to spend several segments on this, so we're not going anywhere. We're not ending this conversation, but we do need to hit a break because coming up next, Diesel, another crazy story that happened last night. Somerville Ashley Ridge High School in the lower state baseball championship. Scott Eisberg of WCIV in Charleston tweeted out that Somerville has come back to win the lower state championship 6-4 in 8 innings. Well, Diesel, that tweet a few minutes later was quoted by Scott saying, hold up, I'm being told there's a pitch count protest which would forfeit the game for Somerville. Green Wave players were crying. This total has now gotten 1.4 million views on Twitter between Scott's tweets. He went viral for it last night. It is a crazy, crazy story that has a very bad ending for 2 high schools in this, or for 1 high school in this state. Scott Eisberg will join the program next. He was there last night. This story cannot get any crazier. We'll tell you more about it next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. So last night I was on Twitter and I had several people send me this tweet, this story that happened in the lower part of the state last night. We do a lot of high school coverage on this very station, most of it good, but this story, Diesel, is not good. And I want to let someone who was there covering the game explain what happened. We bring in Scott Eisberg. He is the sports director for WCIV in Charleston. Scott, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. And for those that have not heard about this story yet, because I assume a large majority of our audience has not, can you please set the table and let those know what happened exactly last night?
Yeah, for sure. So bottom line, it's a winner-take-all game. One game to go to the state championship series between Somerville High School and Ashley Ridge High School. Two high schools, both in the town of Somerville, huge rivals, literally, I don't know, maybe a 5-mile drive from each other. So, I mean, certainly tensions high. One of those nights where it was special. The ambiance was special, and there were a ton of people here at the game. And so Ashley Ridge is a big-time underdog in the game. They go up 4-0. Somerville comes back. They tie it up. They go to extra innings. Somerville wins 6-4. Go to the big-time dog pile, and then all of a sudden, during the dog pile, you kind of see the umpires gathering together with the athletics directors, and Somerville quickly stops dogpiling and stops celebrating, and then you kind of wonder what the heck is going on here. Well, apparently there is there is now a rule in the South Carolina rule book of high school league rules that if you pitch on one calendar day, whether you throw 1 pitch or 30 pitches, it does not matter. The next calendar day, you cannot throw more than 75 pitches. That is your limit, hands down. Well, Thayer Tavormina is the pitcher for Somerville. 2 nights ago, he threw 2 pitches. That was it. He threw 2 pitches in the game. He came back last night and he threw 83 pitches. And Ashley Ridge was informed of the rule. They knew about the rule. And Ashley Ridge reported him right on the spot to the umpires. Now, they finished the game because they said it's not really a finished game until the scorecard is signed by both sides. Once it was signed, basically Somerville agreeing with Ashley Ridge agreeing with Somerville on the actual pitch counts, just the numbers that were there. That's when it went down and had to go to the high school league. So the game was not quote unquote finished last night. It was, in the eyes of Ashley Ridge, the forfeit for Somerville, and in the eyes of Somerville, I don't know how it's black and white. It is what it is, but Somerville has had several excuses, basically, more or less going for the common sense excuses. And it is now up to the high school league. The high school league saw it today and they said, nope, it's a forfeit for Somerville. It's Ashley Ridge wins. They're going to go on and play Lexington in the state championship game. Somerville right now is going through the appeals process. They have to file an appeal by 5 o'clock today, or they could try to get an injunction from a judge to not play the state championship series starting tomorrow while the rest of it is sorted out. So that's kind of where we are with the whole thing. It's kind of a bizarre scenario, but I think why Ashley Ridge is so adamant about this, first of all, it's the rule, but Ashley Ridge was up 4-1 and they pulled their starting pitcher because they knew the pitch count rule. So they pulled their pitcher while Somerville did not pull their pitcher.
So Scott, help us out here. Are we under the assumption here that both teams knew the rule and were informed of the rule, like warned of the rule before the game started, and they chose to do it anyway, or was this just a mistake?
From what I can ascertain from folks that I've spoken to, it was sent out to coaches. It was sent out before the playoffs to coaches. So coaches knew about the rule, whether the rules or pitch count rules were sent out, whether they were read or studied. I don't know if they were read or studied, but if you're a coach, that should fall on your shoulders to do so. Now, the folks that are Somerville supporters, their big argument is, well, this is either an oversight or I guess a judgment call by the coach. Why should the kids suffer for that? That's their big thing, is why should the kids suffer if the coach made a mistake? Well, I mean, it blatantly says in the rules, if this happens, the pitcher is considered an ineligible player. You forfeit the game and you owe a fine to the high school league. So it does, I think Somerville's pushing for the coach to be suspended or the coach to be disciplined and let the kids play. But I think, Ashley Ridge's whole thing is, hey, we pulled our pitcher and, we lost the game because of that. We should be playing in the state championship.
Scott Eisberg, he is the sports director for WCIV in Charleston. So, Scott, how many, in that moment last night, in this bizarre story, if Somerville would have just pulled the pitcher, 8 pitches prior, they would have been okay? Am I right on that?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. That's exactly it.
What was the reasoning? Did they give a reasoning?
No, I mean, he was pitching well and whatnot, but no, I mean, they went with him. I don't know if they just weren't keeping track or forgot about that rule. It's a new rule this year. The 75 pitches the day after is a new rule this year. So, maybe it was just an oversight. I don't know that, neither team wanted to comment on camera about what, we've been told they know who actually won the game. Neither team celebrated like winning a lower state championship. So both coaches were just going to wait till the, actual process took its course. And that has to happen today. I mean, the series is supposed to start tomorrow. The championship series is supposed to start tomorrow. So, I guess a judge could say, we're not playing the game tomorrow, or a judge, might not do that. That's the question, is where it goes from here with the appeals process. And, the high school league basically sided with Ashley Ridge, but Somerville can appeal. I mean, that's ultimately what Somerville can do.
Scott Eisberg, sports director for WCIV in Charleston, joining us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Scott, there's always a loud minority of people when you see a call you don't like in the playoffs that affects the game, who will say things like, well, you can't call that in a playoff game, which, I think is typically a completely bogus argument. The rules are the rules. There's not a set of regular season rules and then a set of playoff rules. But am I understanding here that this was just a playoff rule? This was not a regular season rule?
Well, I'm actually standing here next to Ashley Ridge's athletics director, who said the championship series is on hold right now.
Wow, so, breaking news.
So apparently it is on hold right now, and now you see where this is going to be going. I mean, this is going to go deeper and deeper. We're going to see where this kind of goes. The only thing I could think of to even remind me of this is, I don't know how long you guys have been around the state, but back in 2012 or 2013, Goose Creek football had an ineligible player, and it came to light during the playoffs. And Goose Creek football, I mean, they were on part of, they were going to win the state championship. They were undefeated. That was a team with Tremel Terry, and I mean, they had some studs on that team. And if you remember, it went through a whole court injunction and appeals process. It went to court. And, that whole situation, they played the first game of the playoffs. They won the game. And then they had to go back and forfeit that game afterwards. So they actually played the game, but then forfeited it. And they were out of the playoffs. And that was another thing where it falls on the coaches decision to play the player. But, the kids took the brunt of that one. It's a little bit of a different situation, but it's kind of a very similar situation as far as just a coach playing an ineligible player.
Scott, it's obviously tough on the players because they've worked so long to get to this point. So it would be unfortunate for the team there to not be able to continue. But are there any financial ramifications of not being involved any farther? I mean, I know in college football and things like that, where there's a lot of money involved, there can be some essentially financial winnings or windfalls by continuing to advance through a postseason.
Well, I think the financial windfall would be if they owed the fine, because it does say in the rules that they owe a fine to the high school league. I don't know what that fine is, but they do owe a fine if they do have to forfeit. They owe a fine. So, I don't know what they're pocketing as far as gate from a state championship. It would be one home game, because one game would be home, one would be away, and then a potential neutral site game. So as far as gate goes, I think it's minimal, especially at Somerville, where people stand on the outside of the fence and half of them don't pay to go in anyway. But yeah, I think ultimately it's a fine, but I think it's more than the financial windfall. I think it's it's a thing where right is going to prevail. If Ashley Ridge did things the right way, Ashley Ridge knew the rule, Ashley Ridge pulled their pitcher, Ashley Ridge is going to probably play for the state championship. Rules are written in this one. I mean, I've seen the rule and it is written in black and white. I mean, it could not be explained any easier, to understand.
So you can't blame the high school league then, right?
No, you cannot blame the high school league. It's not one of those like veiled things. It's one of those things where you read it and go, nope, that's the rule. It says it right there. It says what the ramifications are. I mean, it is written out for you. So yeah, I think in that situation, in the situation that we're in right now, Somerville, I think will try to, protest for not pity, but, in essence saying, take it out on the coach. It's not the player's fault, yada, yada. But ultimately the kids at Ashley Ridge, they did nothing wrong. And, if they had not pulled their pitcher, who knows if they're not winning at the end of the game on the field. So, I think you just have to take it for what the rule is. And Ashley Ridge played by the rule. Somerville did not.
Hey, Scott, we all have bosses. This is just a reminder to always check your boss's emails, right?
Yeah, check your emails. It's a good idea to check your emails and your texts for
Scott,
sure.
Great stuff, man. We appreciate you taking time to hop on and let us know what's going on here in the upstate.
Yeah, for sure. No worries at all.
That is Scott Eisberg of Unbelievable. Of WCIV in Charleston. Diesel, this story is crazy.
It's a tough one. I mean, and I was wondering, was it a staffer of the school that lost the game calling this out as a technicality? Was this a parent? People love to score things in the stands.
That's what I was wondering.
I was really wondering who called this out.
It has to be the coach of Ashley Ridge, right? Because he said in the interview, Ashley Ridge knew the rule. They pulled their pitcher for the same reason because they knew he couldn't go over that limit.
And clearly he didn't walk across the diamond to the umpire and say, "Hey, oh, that pitcher's done. He can't come back. We've counted X number of pitches," because somebody's counting the pitches, right? The rule is if you've thrown today, what did he say? You can't throw more than 75 pitches tomorrow.
And the coaches do keep count.
So somebody was
Assistants.
keeping count of these pitches.
Yep.
And I just wonder, Cole, like, what was it like when he was at pitch number 70?
Oh, I can't imagine.
I tell you what, was there somebody like twirling the mustache? Like, we're going to get him.
Well,
we're going to get him.
Diesel, the reality of it is I have goosebumps thinking about what Scott said with Somerville celebrating, dogpiling, thinking they just punched their ticket to a state championship.
Yeah.
Not a regular season game.
That's brutal.
And then the umpires walk out. Can you imagine being there, seeing that happen? I mean, that is the most tragic thing.
You think the parent sections get toxic when an umpire calls a ball that's not a ball or a strike that's not a strike? Imagine telling your kid, sorry, you're not going to a state championship game because of a technicality.
That is the wildest thing. That is the wildest story. Again, breaking news that Scott broke during the interview. He was standing next to the Ashley Ridge AD, who let Scott know that the state championship series is now on hold, Diesel, that was supposed to start tomorrow. I get that it's tragic, but as Scott said, it's black and white. If you want to say the coach should be suspended and the players should still play, it's a team.
The rule is the rule. I mean, we always ask this question, like, what are we teaching our kids?
Yeah.
If we teach them that, somebody can be a scapegoat and take the heat on this when it really should have been the whole team, right? I mean, that's saying like you can always look for an out, right?
Well, I tweeted out 2 hours ago, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, Diesel, but I said, look, I hate it for Somerville baseball, and I hate it even more for the players and parents. Is the pitch count a dumb rule? Maybe so. But the bottom line is the pitch count was exceeded. This is black and white. And I don't know if they'll get anywhere in terms of the appeal. I don't know what there is to appeal,
Yeah, it's sad for both teams, but like we say, the rules are the rules. It's not it is your fault for not knowing the rules, right? You were sent them, you understood them. I don't know if these coaches, and maybe this is something that happens going forward. Coaches have to sign off that they saw, read, and understood and vow to adhere to the rules? I just don't know.
So we had a caller on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. This caller, John, wants to comment. He is a high school soccer coach. Is that right, John?
Yes, sir, it is.
Go ahead, man.
So here's the thing about rules, and I coach JV, so it's not the same like playoffs because we don't have a playoffs or anything. But one thing I think a lot of people forget as high school coaches is it's not just our job to coach them in a sport; it's our job to coach them as human beings. How to be. They're learning stuff in school, but they got to learn how to win and lose and be coachable in a sport in case they do go pro, or in case they or when they go out into the world.
Hey, John, I don't want to cut you off here, John. Would you do us a favor? It sounds like you might have your car window open while you're driving. If you could roll up that car window, we're getting a lot of background noise.
I'm sorry about that.
There you go.
Perfect.
But so one of the problems that we have is that we have to coach these kids to learn how to be functional and adapt to those things. And I think the problem is that we as coaches expect our kids to just know what to do, and we don't exactly set that example all the time. But my kids know that grades are my most important thing. And so when grades are there, hey, you have an F, you can't play for a half. It's not negotiable. And I think that this is one of those times where, like with Somerville, is this is a non-negotiable. And whether you take it out on the kids or take it out on the coach or whoever it is, it's up to all of us to kind of hold that standard.
That's true, John. I mean, if they don't overturn this ruling, then, there's how many kids are on a high school baseball team? 20, 25 kids, something like that. There's 20 kids right there who are learning a valuable life lesson that you better make sure you know the rules before you start the game.
Absolutely. And when you as a coach fail to adhere to the standards of whether it be the South Carolina high school league or whether it be to your own standards or your district standards, it doesn't matter. You're setting a bad example if you're trying to subvert those policies.
Absolutely right. John, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you. That is John on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolina fan phones commenting. Real quick, let's cut in live to a live interview with Scotty Scheffler.
I don't really know. I feel like my head's still spinning. I can't really explain what happened this morning. I did spend some time stretching in a jail cell. That was a first for me. That was part of my warm-up. I was just sitting there waiting, and I started going through my warm-up. I felt like there was a chance I may be able to still come out here and play, and so I started going through my routine. And I tried to get my heart rate down as much as I could today, but like I said, I still feel like my head's spinning a little bit. But I was fortunate to be able to make it back out and play some golf today.
Here on one.
Scotty, what was it like even making the decision to continue to compete today and shifting focus to the task at hand and coming out and shooting 5 under?
Yeah, well, like I said, it was just a huge misunderstanding this morning that'll get resolved, I think, fairly quickly. And I came here for a golf tournament. I was driving in this morning trying to get to my warm up time and get ready for the round of golf. I didn't really have an understanding of what had transpired this morning. And my main focus after getting arrested was wondering if I could be able to come back out here and play. And fortunately, I was able to do that. And it was nice to put together a solid round today for sure.
Dan on 17.
It seemed like the crowds were really behind you and your fellow players kind of rallied around you. Did you feel the support out there today from your community?
I really did. It was really nice. The fans were tremendous today. I felt like they were cheering extra loud for me today. And it was, I really do. I know sometimes you can't really see it on my face, but I really do enjoy playing in front of the fans. The support I've been getting the last few months out here has been tremendous, and I'm really grateful for it.
Dylan on 18.
How long did it take before the golf felt normal, or did it feel normal at any point once you got out there?
It probably took a few holes to feel normal. Obviously I didn't have my normal warm up, and I'm I usually stick to my routine. I'm a big routine guy, especially when it comes to my preparation, but it took a few holes to settle in. And, it was kind of nice just to be out there inside the ropes competing. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And so I was fortunate to be able to come out here and do it again today.
Right here, Mark on 4.
Scotty, we've come to know you as a pretty unflappable person out here, not affected by a lot of stuff. Can you describe how rattled you were when you were, and you just referenced, being in a jail cell and whatnot? Just describe that mindset and how surreal that was for you.
Yeah, I was pretty rattled, to say the least. The officer that took me to the jail was very kind. He was great. We had a nice chat in the car that kind of helped calm me down. And I was sitting there waiting to kind of go in. I asked him, I was like, "Hey, excuse me, can you just come hang out with me for a few minutes so I can calm down?" And I was never angry. I was just in shock, and I think my body was I was shaking the whole time. I was shaking for like an hour. It was definitely a new feeling for me. And he came out and we had a nice chat. And then the officers inside the jail were tremendous. A couple of them made some jokes, I think, when they figured out, who I was and what happened and, how I ended up there. They this one older officer looked at me as I was doing like my fingerprints or whatever. And he looks at me, he goes, "So do you want the full experience today?" And I kind of looked at him. I was like, I don't know how to answer that. And he's like, "Come on, man, you want a sandwich?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll take a sandwich. I hadn't eaten breakfast yet." And so, I mean, they were really kind. I'm grateful to have. I'm grateful that we have such strong police, and there are protectors out there. And like I said, we just got into a chaotic situation this morning. That's really all it was.
Wow,
Mike 6, Jim.
that is absolutely fascinating.
Spent time stretching in a jail cell. That was a first for me.
Ate a sandwich. He ate a sandwich for breakfast at 6 a.m.
Cole, you don't play golf.
Mm-mm.
I do, not very well, but I do play golf, right? He was asked, how long did it take to feel normal? Quote, "A few holes. I'm a big routine guy." The guy just went out there and went par, birdie, par through his first 5 holes.
Unbelievable.
To feel normal.
Unbelievable.
It would have made sense if he bogeyed 1 or 2 of those holes. People would forgive him for bogeying a few of those holes. But dear God.
Gosh, that's crazy. All right. Coming up next, Diesel, we got to hit a break. What do we have coming up on the other side?
On the other side, Cole, the season is over for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, man.
Oh, they crapped the bed in the 3rd period last night. We'll go through how that happened and get you caught up on some of our daily wires, the buzz in the sports world. That's coming up next on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Cole, it's the freaking weekend, man. If you need to head out to a party this weekend, if you're going down to the lake, probably more on Sunday than on Saturday because of the rain, then you need to stop by your local Ingles Market and see their beer and wine section. They have some of the best selection of beers that you're going to find anywhere in the upstate. If you're looking for those hard to find local beers, the craft beers, they have them at your local Ingles Market. Some of the unique flavors. Everybody always likes being that guy who brings a popular new beer to a party. Like, "Oh, check out this new thing that I'm really into," right? Everybody loves being that guy. You can do it, and you can do it affordably because they have a great beer and wine selection, and they keep their prices low. If you want to bring some wine to the party, you can do that as well with a great international wine house inside your local Ingles Market. And again, if you're headed to a party this weekend, you need to stop by the meat department as well, Cole. They only sell USDA Choice and Prime, the top 2 grades of beef. They sell great things like bison. They sell a lot of organic and natural beef as well, pork and chicken. Anything you need for your weekend, you're going to find it at your local Ingles Markets. We love them. We love their support, and we would love for you to show your support to them. Ingles Markets, where you'll get low prices and love the savings.
Managers in the car and two gentlemen from
Oh, man, they were so close. They had it. They had it in their grasp, and then they let it go. What's the old saying? They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. The Carolina Hurricanes, Cole, were up 3-1 going into the third period last night. It seemed like they were headed for Game 7, the best thing there ever is in sports, Game 7 hockey in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But then Rangers left winger Chris Kreider scored a third period natural hat trick. That's 3 goals in a row, uninterrupted by any other scores, and single-handedly gutted the Canes, ending their season. Dude, it was brutal. If you're a Hurricanes fan, I don't know how you're feeling today. I don't know how you got out of bed today. But the crazy thing, Cole, they had a lot of time after the New York Rangers scored the go-ahead goal, 15 minutes and 41 seconds to go in the third period. They had time. They had time to come back and do it. Another gut punch in the game last night between the Rangers and the Hurricanes. A former Hurricane, Vincent Trocheck, scored the Rangers' single second period goal. Just a tough way to end the season. If you are a Carolina Hurricanes fan, you're listening to Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. Carolina had so many chances late to get back into that game, to tie it, to win it. Obviously the final score was 5-3. There was empty netter that pushed that final score to 5-3. The shot differential was in Carolina's favor. I think New York just wore them down. Honestly, I think the push to get this series from being down 3-0 back to 3-2 wore them out. The New York Rangers were far more physical. They landed 27 hits to Carolina's 14 hits. Sebastian Aho had a chance to win, to tie it late. He had a good look with a one-on-one against the goalie. Jordan Martinook and Jake Gunsel both had shots ring off the crossbar. Just a tough way to end the season. The Rangers advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals to play the winner of Boston versus Florida. The Florida Panthers lead that series 3-2.
Oh, I hate it for the Carolina Hurricanes. I really do. But I didn't think that when they got down the series, man, I didn't know if they'd be able to come back. That's tough. You get down. You have to string so many games together. But their season's over.
It's incredible that the Rangers scored all 3 of those goals. That natural hat trick, Cole, occurred in under 5 minutes. It was about 4.5 minutes into the third period. They had scored 3 straight goals.
Shout out to Wesley and Brian on the stream, just joining us. TOLOing, that stands for turn it on, leave it on. That's what we ask you to do each and every day on this very program. On the other side, we will get right back into it. I have questions for you. I have questions for Diesel. We'll get your thoughts as well on what happened this morning with Scotty Scheffler.
From start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
On the Fan of Central.
It is hour number 2 of Wire to Wire right here on the Fan Upstate. Glad to have you with us. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. It's the newest afternoon drive show, a loaded first hour. We could spend the next 3, Diesel, just reacting to what we heard in the first hour, whether it was Scheffler or the high school baseball incident last night with Somerville and Ashley Ridge. That's wild. And speaking of that incident, if you just tuned in, we'll tell you more about it as the show goes on. Brad wants to comment on what happened last night in Somerville. What's up, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is bizarre. I live in Somerville, and I'll say this. When I went to bed last night, I really didn't understand the ramifications of what today would turn into. But it's just another example of the South Carolina High School League being involved in a situation. And I will admit the rule is clear as day. Now, I do agree with your tweet. The rule, whether it should be a rule or not, that's a valid question. And, it really makes you wonder what will happen next, because I don't think the ruling is going to change. But, are people going to lose their jobs over this? Like, I just feel like there's so much more to this situation than we're really talking about right now.
Now, Brad, I don't know. I don't know what the staffs of high school baseball teams are. I'm sure it's probably 3-4 coaches, probably
3 to
max.
5, 3 to 6.
It's somebody's job, Brad, to know the rules. And if it's not, that's an oversight by a coaching staff to not have somebody who, find that person who is just a jerk about the rules and then put them on your staff, right? It is their job to know every single rule and make sure that you're following them. I don't understand why, why the school didn't have that.
Right. I mean, in college athletics, if a coach doesn't follow the rules and they blatantly ignore it, they're probably not going to be around much longer. You know what I mean? So there's just so much to this.
But, Brad, I want to ask you, how is it the high school league's fault?
Well, I think more so the actual rule. They're doing their job in making a decision based off of the rule. I think we could have a serious debate on whether or not the rule should be in place.
Well,
that makes sense.
Isn't the rule in place to protect the health of these kids so that you can't just go out there and wear a kid's arm out by pitching him again and again and again? Like, this seems like a pretty clear-cut safety rule.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely is. But when you have one kid who throws 2 pitches, has a day off, like, is 75 pitches really going to matter?
Hey, here's my question, Brad. And I didn't ask this earlier to Scott, but this may be a coaching question. Why throw 2 pitches the day before?
Yeah, I mean, that too. What does that 2 pitches save you to where a deciding game 3? Why even risk that?
Was he a closer? Does anybody know?
I have no clue.
I was curious.
If he was a closer, throwing 2 pitches makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean but still 75 pitches at this level of baseball. It's when I was playing Little League ball, we were throwing more than 75 pitches. I mean, it's really one thing if it's 90 to 100 pitches, but 75. I mean, come on, like that's where I think that's where I think the debate should be. But I'll say this real quick about Scotty. That's a whole nother fun topic, as y'all have figured out. But could you imagine if John Daly was Scotty Scheffler this morning?
Oh, he'd be laying into these guys.
Story would be.
Scotty is far too professional and polished to lay into the Louisville Police Department. I mean, he obviously knows also who his audience is and who his fan base is. He can't go out there trashing police departments, because then that creates a whole other narrative that Scotty hates police and doesn't respect police.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a great sports day, and it's only going to get better. And I'm going to lead by this, because I know y'all are probably going to talk about it. But here's another talking point real quick. Does South Carolina miss the tournament? if they get swept this weekend, and I'll leave it at that.
Thanks for the call, Brad. We'll answer that question.
Yeah, very good question, Brad.
It's a great question.
Look, I mean, the rule is the rule to protect the student athletes. And you have a question, well, why is it 2? Why isn't it this number? Why isn't it that number? Well, there's a range. There's a reason why you can't go out and throw 70, 35 pitches today. The rule is that you can only throw 30 pitches today, and tomorrow you can only throw 75. It's to prevent you from pushing a kid to where he's throwing a ton of pitches day after day after day after day.
But I asked the question about the 2. What was the point of going in the day before and throwing 2 pitches?
Well, we don't know what the situation in that game was. I mean, you watch Major League Baseball, and granted, I know that they're not operating with a Major League Baseball staff. We're a college level staff.
Yeah.
These pitchers go in and throw to 1 or 2 batters, and they're out of the game. And if you're really good, you may get 2 batters out with only 2 pitches.
I get that, but it's just hard. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the coach, but man, it's hard for me not to just say this is on the coach. The
it's
coach
entirely
has
on
to,
the coach.
You've got to have. There's every baseball coach that I know in the upstate, and I know very many. Every staff, Diesel, has an assistant that their job is to keep stats / pitch count. That is what they do during a game, because nobody else is going to do it on the team, right? The head coach isn't going to do it. There has to be an assistant that does it. So either an assistant dropped the ball last night, or the head coach. I mean, ultimately it falls on the head coach, but it very well could have been a assistant that just didn't do his job.
Texter here has a very good point, Cole. Texter says it's the consecutive days pitched, not the number of pitches. Everyone is complaining about Tommy John and the pros, but no one says anything about the number of kids with Tommy John. It's a valid point here. We spent a lot of time a few weeks ago talking about all the rise of Tommy John surgeries in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it from the perspective of these kids are playing travel ball, so they're never giving their arms and their elbows time to rest in the off season of their high school teams by either taking time off or going and playing another sport.
Yeah.
Right? So it seems as if the South Carolina High School League is trying to implement a rule to hopefully stave off injuries among these pitchers.
And I get that. And I don't disagree with the texter that says it's the consecutive days pitched. I understand that.
I think it sucks for the Somerville kids, but you're not winning this one. Your coach screwed up and cost you a berth into the state championship. And it's a vital lesson that they're going to learn the hard way. And sometimes that happens in life. You learn the lessons the hard way. That, hey, you know what? You got to know the rules. You got to follow the rules.
I agree with you that they're not going to win this, but as Scott Eisberg told us on the interview, that the state championship that was supposed to start tomorrow has been pushed off. That's alarming to me.
I do appreciate that at least this judge is interested in taking a breath, doing the due diligence.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to help.
I don't either. The only problem is you have like graduation and stuff going on right now, right? So conflicting schedules, it's going to be tough.
If you're a kid, it's worth missing your high school graduation to go play in a state championship.
Oh, game. I don't think they'll do it on the same day. I'm just saying it's going to be tough to. I don't see it happening. I really don't. I don't think that they get this reversed in any manner. It is fascinating, and I hate that it happened. But it is what it is. It really is. So
do they get state championship rings from their high school? Should their high school pay for that?
No.
Give them rings?
No.
If this was the state of North Carolina, they would. You remember when the University of North Carolina was giving out state championship rings?
I do.
Oh, it's so stupid.
Let's get back to Scotty Scheffler. This is a fascinating story. And if you are toe-lowing, which means turn it on, leave it on. In the very last hour, we did get to some audio of Scotty Scheffler live at the podium. But Diesel, I want to ask a couple of questions, not only to you, but to the audience. 71307 is the text line. You can start your text with the word fan. Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone as well. It's 844-326-3663. First question, was the cop in the wrong here?
No, the cop was not in the wrong. The cop was handling I don't know what you call it. A crime scene. I guess you could call it a crime scene. Yeah, the cop was handling a crime scene. And the cop is in control in that crime scene. It is his job to handle that. If you can't just let random people. Let's take the fact that this was at Valhalla. Let's take the fact that this was Scotty Scheffler out of it. If you can't just let random people drive through a crime scene.
Right. But this car was clearly marked.
It doesn't matter.
See, I disagree. I think the cop was in the wrong for the way that he handled it. I do not think the cop was in the wrong for doing his job, right?
No.
The cop did his job.
Wrong.
The cop did his job, but the cop does not throw him in handcuffs and take him to jail.
No, you're wrong.
In a
Cole.
PGA.
The cop didn't do anything wrong. Valhalla Golf Club.
Well,
and the
my
PGA,
opinion, he did do something.
The cop and the PGA.
It's an opinionated question.
The PGA and Valhalla Golf Club, they're aware that this is happening right outside of their gate, right? Why don't they have somebody out there directing players and telling them where to go? Why don't they have somebody calling up all these players? It's not the cop's job to bend the rules. We're just talking about this with a high school baseball thing. It's not the cop's job to bend the rules based on the situation. It may be his job to understand a little bit of nuance, sure, but it is his job to control the situation. And in his mind, what's happening in these split-second decisions is that I've directed this car to stop and wait here. He didn't stop. I directed the car to go that way. He didn't go that way. He went a different way. So I went over there and I tried to open the car door.
Sure.
And then he kept moving, right? That's what the cop sees from his perspective, is I gave this person in this vehicle, marked or not, doesn't matter.
It does
clear
matter
instructions
marked,
on what to do. He failed to adhere to those instructions. And then when I tried to stop him, he kept going.
So I understand what you're saying on the cop doing the job. I think you have to break it into two parts. I agree with you that the cop did his job and has to do his job by making sure that just anyone can enter. But there are not 45,000 PGA Tour marked cars on the highway. This was not the only one that entered this morning. I'm just curious of why, when he saw that the car was marked PGA, stopped the car. Scotty was in the wrong by continuing to drive. I do think that, Diesel.
His foot could have slipped off
the
brake pedal.
It could have. But after that point, after the cop realized the car was stopped, after Scotty stopped the car, to that point, the cop hasn't done anything wrong, in my opinion. After that point is where, in my opinion, the cop should have used a little discretion in trying to understand what was going on. Maybe he sees, this is a professional golfer. Let me ask him what's going on and understand that this guy's supposed to be here. So that's where I have issue, and instead of just throwing him in jail.
I know a handful of police officers, and I'm not saying that I can speak for all of them, but some police officers, Cole, are just plain hard asses.
They are,
and it's possible that Scotty caught the wrong cop on the wrong day.
He could have,
right?
Yep.
I mean, who knows why this officer pulled him out of the vehicle and decided to get as physical with him as he did. Again,
sure.
I haven't seen video of exactly how it happened. Did he open the car door and pull him out of the car that way? Or did he pull him out of an open window? In which case, man, that's really excessive.
We should see body cam footage at some point, right? You would think, if it wasn't under that yellow jacket. Bobby from Gaffney wants to comment on the Scotty Scheffler situation. Bobby, what's up?
Not much. I just wanted to call and say that Cole, I agree with you. And I feel like the cop is in the wrong here. I mean, if you go and look at it, the crime scene was not where he was arrested. It was 100 or 200 yards down the road past the front entrance of Valhalla Golf Club. All he was doing is following a car marked as a player car in front of him. He was following behind them. That person got into the club. Scotty Scheffler ended up in the clank. It's not his fault. It's police's fault. And they should be publicly humiliated, shamed, and fired. I'll hang up and listen.
We appreciate the call, Bobby. Ended up in the clank. Listen, I'm not faulting the police officer for doing his job.
We had a call yesterday from a police officer, Cole. I don't know if that same officer is listening today or if we have another police officer who's listening. Would love their perspective. Again, we're not asking you to speak for the Louisville Police Department.
Sure.
And we're asking you, based on the still limited information that we have, we don't have everything, right?
That's right.
Based on the limited information that we have, what's your police opinion? I would love to hear that.
I would too. And you don't have to give your name. You know, if you're
you don't have to give your name or your affiliation.
Sure.
You don't have to tell us, what town you work for. We don't need any of that stuff.
I just wish, like, when the car was stopped, I wish that the officer would have handled that different. I think both were at fault. Diesel, I think Scotty was at fault if he intentionally kept driving. And then the officer to that point was doing his job. But I just wish after that they could have said, okay, to Bobby's point, you were following that car in. Where are you going? Who are you? And maybe he could have said, I'm Scotty Scheffler.
I do believe that Scotty Scheffler has probably never been in trouble in his life. And has never, like, Cole, you know how it is. I mean, you see blue lights on the road.
Yeah.
Even if you're not speeding, you still get nervous.
You
like,
do.
oh crap, what was I doing? Are they coming after me?
Yep.
So it's possible that Scotty Scheffler, who has lived a majority of his life in comfort, has never really dealt with the police very much. It's possible that his shoe was wet and his shoe slipped off the brake pedal and touched the gas pedal.
Never know.
We don't know. It's possible that this police officer just split-second reacted in a harsher way than he should have.
Texter says, perfect example of cops being unable to de-escalate most interactions. What do you think? 71307. So, Diesel, I asked the question, was the cop in the wrong? You say no, I say yes. Second question, did Scotty handle it the right way?
From what we've seen, now, are you talking about specifically when he was still in the vehicle, or are you saying after the fact?
I think I mean more after the fact of cooperating and not trying to use do you know who I am?
I think he did pretty well. I mean, I haven't heard anything where he, threw a tantrum, got prima donna. I haven't heard anything like that. So, and with his press conference audio that we heard a snippet of there a few minutes ago, it seems as if he's very much calmed down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a high stress situation for people who are not used to dealing with police. Again, you can have done absolutely nothing wrong, but it's still nerve-wracking to deal with the police.
It is. It really is. And, Jeff Darlington said, Diesel, that, by the way, he had coverage of the entire thing. He was right there. If you did not know, Jeff Darlington had some really good reporting this morning. You can see some of that on ESPN and his Twitter. But Diesel, Jeff Darlington even said, hey, look, Scotty didn't even raise his voice this morning, which is incredible. Which is incredible because if I was in that situation, I don't think I could have just calmly cooperated. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I could have cooperated.
How many situations have we seen on television over the past 5-6 years of people being arrested?
Yeah.
Obviously tensions run high. People start shouting. You essentially talk your way into more trouble.
Right. You do
by getting upset.
And Diesel, you're 100% right. And that right there doesn't help. Getting upset doesn't help, which is why I do blame the cop, because if the cop notices Scotty's cooperating, Scotty's calm, he's not raising his voice, I just wish, and again, I don't know what the cop was going through. I just wish at that moment he'd have said, okay, let's go over here and sit down and figure out what's going on, instead of just throwing him in the back of the cop car and throwing him underneath the jail.
Madcraft says, I do have to imagine that Scotty has driven into hundreds of tournaments in marked vehicles and probably drives right past them.
True.
Mad, that's true. I mean, when you're in that world, you assume that people are going to know who you are. You're going to assume that your marked vehicle will get you right past security. You're going to assume that the vehicles that you're seeing are just hired security and maybe not uniformed police officers.
Yep. And I think that's a big part of it, Diesel.
Hey, I've been to a lot of concerts where I've worked backstage areas, Cole, and most of the time, if you walk like you know where you're going, people will just let you through because
that's true.
They're just hired guns, right? They're not police officers. They're not grizzled officers of the law. They're just there to, check people's badges and IDs when you walk through, and most of the time they'll just let you through.
Let's take a break. Come back. We will be joined by Shane Connick, as we are each and every Friday. Diesel, we love talking to Shane. Yeah. We'll talk NASCAR next right here on Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
Bow tie.
Little programming note, you can join us next Wednesday from 3 to 7 at Ingalls Markets, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. We'll be doing the show live from inside the corner market and hooking you up with a $25 gift card if you know the answer to our trivia clues. Joined now by Shane Connick, NASCAR reporter for the Charlotte Observer. We have reports that Shane is on the ground in North Wilkesboro. Shane, first question. This is a biggie. If you get the answer wrong, we might just have to end the interview right here, right now. Is store-bought moonshine? Shane, you got us?
I got you. It's store-bought moonshine.
Moonshine. They put the word moonshine on the side of the jar, but is it really moonshine?
I think it is.
Oh, Shane. For shame, Shane. How dare you?
They just went over a whole thing with us before when they unveiled Richard Petty's hat, a Moonshine Motorsports. They're really pushing that whole narrative this whole weekend up here.
Shane Connick
very much intertwined.
Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer joining us on Wire to Wire. We will talk about the All-Star race coming up very shortly. He covers NASCAR. You can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connick. Does great work, and you can check him out every single Friday on this very station. But let's go first to Darlington, the Goodyear 400. Last week, another crazy ending, Shane. Brad Keselowski this time puts a Ford in victory lane for the very first time this season. Your thoughts on Darlington?
A lot of thoughts there. That was a race that we had last week at Darlington. I was down by the track for the entirety of the race this time and noticed toward the end, watching it on the screen, when Tyler Reddick went right in front or threw Chris Buescher into the wall. At that point before that, it had appeared like it was Buescher's race to win. Tyler Reddick started from the pole, was leading for most of it. And then when Buescher made that move, first he pushed his teammate, Brad Keselowski, and then eventually just cuts to the left and gets right by Reddick and Keselowski. And at that point, Buescher's got it. It's his race. He's going to be the first Ford to get into victory lane. And then when Tyler Reddick makes that move to put him into the wall, was able to tell right away that was going to take both of them out of the race and likely secure Brad Keselowski's victory. So afterward on pit road, I was down there right away. Keselowski's doing his burnout and all that. It was tense in general. A lot of Ty Gibbs kind of came in the other way. It was a particularly tense kind of post-race pit road. And then Chris Buescher just got out of his car and just went right for Reddick. There were probably 40, 50 swarm of reporters just right there. Phones, cameras just out immediately capturing all of that, and was able to pretty much hear a lot of what Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick were saying. And you really were able to really quickly realize where they were both coming from. And that's racing. That's what happens. And just a really interesting thing to witness to end last week's race at Darlington.
Shane, do you believe that, every reporter, every person on pit road having a video camera and a high quality microphone on them at all times, do you think that has led to maybe the reduction in so much confrontation? I love it. That to me is what's entertaining and interesting, to see these high level competitors get out of their cars and go after each other. But at the same time, they realize this isn't the old days, right? This is the 1970s or the 80s where if somebody throws a punch, maybe nobody actually catches it on film or in a photo. Like, do you think that has contributed to some of these guys calming down, or do you think it's just more crackdown from NASCAR? It says you guys will not do this and embarrass the sport this way?
I think it's both a lot, and also that there's that bit of PR and knowing how it's going to come off, especially if you're someone like Buescher, knowing Buescher's personality, knowing how badly he wants to win. It probably looks better for Buescher this whole week if he goes out there and reacts the way he did. And obviously, all of his comments from him made sense. All of Reddick's comments make sense, even though that Tyler's just a quieter type guy, so it kind of came off a little bit different if you're just watching it from the outside. But yes, those confrontations, obviously anything that can bring in more views, can bring in more eyeballs the sport needs. And I think that you also have to have the right people doing it, because obviously that goes with it. You can't have everybody being a jerk and being a bad look for the sport. And I think that what makes it great right now is when you have a guy like Kyle Busch who's not afraid to go out there and throw a punch sometimes. And then eventually you might get somebody like Chris Buescher to just get a little bit more animated and vocally explain his point of view in the moment, like we saw at Darlington.
Shane, I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, but when I watched the end of that race, it kind of looked like a black eye. It just wasn't, in my opinion, a really good look for Reddick, the race down the stretch, the way that he did drive Buescher up. And I think what happened after the race was 100% warranted from Chris. Do you think that gave Reddick a little bit of a bad look?
I think it did to an extent. I think because, especially as Buescher's point was, that Tyler has a win. And this is something that a lot of people were asking the rest of the Cup drivers about today, is just how important is it to get a win? And something that Tyler Reddick's own teammate, Bubba Wallace, said today is that it doesn't matter if you have 10 wins. You want to get 11 wins. These race car drivers, the one thing they want to do is to win. And so Tyler Reddick, in the moment, even though he already had a win this year, in the moment, I want to win this race that I have a good shot at winning right now. And he felt that was what he was going to do. Chris Buescher feels like he was acting even more conservatively, because he felt like he really, again, after coming 0.001 seconds of victory the week before, he felt like he just really needed that win. And it feels like Reddick might have made a bit more of kind of a gutsy move because he knew in his back pocket that he had won, and that's Chris Buescher's was. So I think that
Shane,
we lose you, Shane?
I think we might have lost Shane here. I'm going to talk for just a second. Shane, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, good. We lost connection there with you just for a little bit. I understand, man. You're up in the foothills there in North Wilkesboro. We have an interesting question here from Madcraft. And I'm sure, obviously, you know the news, even though you're at a racetrack and following that. I'm sure you know the news about Scotty Scheffler's arrest this morning in Louisville. He follows that up with a 5-under 66 today. He was absolutely on top of it. But the question from Madcraft, I think it's an interesting one. Can you give us a NASCAR driver who, if they were arrested the morning of a race, would come out and use it to focus that anger and drive, one hell of a race after going through something like that?
You guys cut out a little bit there. Was it the point that you repeat that? Yeah, cut out a bit there.
Yeah, the question is there a driver in the NASCAR circuit who you look at who, if they were arrested the morning before a race, the same way Scotty Scheffler was this morning before his second round, would just use it to focus, and you have this feeling that they would just be, on fire on the track?
That is a great question, because it feels like everything about Scotty right now, it's not like he's the greatest golfer of all time. It's that right now, since the Masters, he's just been on such a tear that he is the best in the world at this particular moment. And then obviously the way that he has handled the whole thing, and I haven't gotten a chance to see the press conference that he just had this afternoon yet, but I would say that in NASCAR, that person, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin, because somebody who's that big of a name, he's known that much, he's that on top of the sport in the way that he is right now, being both a top driver and a top owner, the personality that he has that people follow and that other people who don't follow it might be able to resonate with immediately. I think that there's no bigger person for the sport to have something like that happen. And then we see how strong of a driver he is every week when nothing controversial does happen with him. So I would pick Denny Hamlin for that. And that is a great question.
Shane Connick joins us on Wire to Wire. He is a NASCAR reporter for the Charlotte Observer. Shane, let's go back to Brad Keselowski. We talked about Ford getting the win, but in my opinion, a little bit bigger of a deal, even though Ford is a big deal, they got their first win. It just seems as if Brad Keselowski getting his first win is a little bit bigger of a deal, thinking that, I can't remember exactly how long it's been, Shane, but when you look at the drought that Keselowski's been in, man, it feels like he really needed that one on Sunday.
He really did, and it had been years since he'd gotten his last win. And he's another one who's a former champion, who's now still involved with the sport, is both a full-time driver and a team owner. And again, unlike other drivers who are also team owners and are also previous champions and are in a lot of ways legends in the sport, we haven't really talked much about Brad Keselowski for the last couple of years because, like you guys just said, he's been winless since he won at Talladega. I believe it was 2021, maybe it was 2022. But it's been several years since Brad had gotten to victory lane. And again, it's not like he's just some random driver who's happened to be around for a while. Because of that, to your point, when you win a race, that almost assuredly locks you into the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. That said, Keselowski is now going to have a spot in the playoffs, obviously the first Ford driver to secure that spot. And again, this is a guy who won a championship 12 years ago and has been a top driver in the sport for a long time. You're now getting Keselowski into the playoffs, and this whole season, now we can really consider him to be a better driver who has a win under his belt in this year. It does mean a lot for Brad Keselowski. And again, he is somebody who's always a threat to get to victory lane for a long time.
Shane Connick joins us on the line here on Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. You know, the NASCAR All-Star Race, you're there this weekend at North Wilkesboro. I know that NASCAR has already announced that the All-Star Race will return there in 2025. That would make it the third straight season. But what do you think NASCAR brass needs to see to maybe bring North Wilkesboro Speedway back as a regular track on the Cup circuit? Or is this kind of just a great novelty track and that's all it's going to be?
It feels like that's what it is right now. But what I think, or I would like to see more of it, is that leads to us seeing more tracks get revitalized. And so we see the success that North Wilkesboro has brought these last couple of years. And maybe, like you said, we can keep it on the Cup Series schedule in some way, whether that is moving the All-Star Race to a different event and getting this as just a spot to go back to, or if it's taking a track like Rockingham Speedway and bringing the Cup Series back to there in a role like this. I think that North Wilkesboro overall, just being up here, you get that whole vibe of how old school everything is. Obviously, last year when they did this for the first time, that was all the talk, and now they've repaved the track. It's a little bit different, but very much the same old feel that it had. And so I think that there are so many other smaller, older tracks in this area, especially in North Carolina, that NASCAR can and is going to be looking to revitalize in some way.
Shane, we talk about in college sports and NFL a lot, we use the term hot seat. And I want to ask, when you look at the 2024 NASCAR season and even go back a year, just so you can have more than 1 year in the sample size, what drivers, in your opinion, whether it be a guy like Martin Truex or a Michael McDowell or whoever you think would be considered on the hot seat if they can't get it done this year here in the regular season and punch their ticket to the postseason?
You know, I would say that Stewart-Haas Racing overall is the biggest team drivers who are on the hot seat right now, because SHR is a team that obviously has great history in the sport, but with Kevin Harvick retiring last year, Josh Berry has filled that role with a number 4 car. And other than that, SHR has 4 cars in the Cup Series, but none of them, it feels like, you know, you've had Chase Briscoe reach the championship 4 before. Noah Gragson shows speed a lot of times. They're not a bad team by any means. And obviously Ryan Preece, you know, it's been strong before. It's in the Cup Series a while. And then now Josh Berry looks good as a rookie, but none of them seem like they're close to being that, even if they could maybe make the playoffs, not necessarily do much at that point. And again, SHR is a team that people regard like Hendrick or like JGR, and similar to Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing, has 4 cars in the Cup Series. At this point, it feels like inevitably, whether it's in the next few years or whenever it ends up coming, that SHR will at least drop down to having 3 or maybe even 2 Cup cars, because it's just not the big dominant team that it once was. But again, in the moment, it does have 4 Cup cars still. And I want to share something that Kevin Harvick just told us in the first media availability that he has given to us in a while. Obviously, he retired last year and has been working as a broadcaster with Fox Sports through the early goings of the season. And he is filling in for Kyle Larson right now out there in the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevy during qualifying, as Kyle Larson is in Indianapolis practicing for the Indy 500, attempting to be the 5th driver to run the double. And so what Kevin Harvick said, Kevin Harvick wearing a Kyle Larson Hendrick Motorsports fire suit. Very weird for a lot of these reporters who have seen Harvick in the SHR fire suit for as long as they've known him. And what Harvick said was about working with Mr. H's Team Hendrick was, yeah, it's nice to see the owner twice every 2 weeks, something like that, insinuating that Gene Haas, also a Formula One owner, and Tony Stewart hadn't been around SHR as much as some drivers may have liked. So I think that to go back to the head about the hot seat, that SHR is going to be the biggest story, I think, in just being something that has been such a mainstay, big team, a lot of good drivers, good crew chiefs, that is now probably going to at least be losing at least one of their charters.
Shane, do you like the pit crew competition for pit stall assignment? I love it. I think it adds an extra little side quest to the All-Star weekend. And is it something that should be done every race?
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to see it yet, but that's going on this evening today on Friday, and I think it's a great idea. We really do want to just see more and more from these pit crews. I think there's a lot of really interesting stories there that don't often get told. A lot of these guys who are climbing over the fences are former college athletes. They're people who aren't necessarily grown up around racing or pit crews, but they've had other athletic skills, and those pit crews make a bigger and bigger impact on these races and on the teams that they work for, especially with how the racing continues to get tighter and tighter. It comes down to, okay, which team pit crews executed the most efficiently, and that's usually what leads to people winning. And so I think that this is going to be a really great opportunity for a lot of fans to really see what the pit crews do. And if this can be something, like you guys said, that could be something that's not just done in the All-Star game or All-Star race, but is something that could continue in some way, I think that could be I think the pit crew challenge, again, it's to be great to showcase, and that would be, and it's a cool way to help set.
Shane, fantastic stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on live at the track and look forward to talking to you again next week. That is Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer. He had a little bad service there.
Yeah, I've spent more than a little bit of time up in Wilkes County, Cole, and yeah, signal's a little spotty. Around the track, a little bit spotty. I mean, you're putting, a lot of you're putting a lot of pressure on those very old, very outdated cell towers up there.
Well, when the call was breaking up, I didn't know if we were talking to Shane Connick or if we were hearing the collect call from Scotty Scheffler this morning.
I mean, we're looking at weather here. I'm sure they're looking at weather up there as well. So that could obviously be playing a factor. But yeah, you get up in those hills, man. Cell signal's a little bit iffy.
All right, we are going to hit our daily wires on the other side. We didn't have a chance to do them earlier, but we're going to tell you what happened last night, what's happening tonight. Clemson baseball has already gone final today, that quick, and more. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan of State. Big thanks to Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer for taking time, as he does each and every Friday, to hop on with us and talk a little NASCAR. I'm not going to, as a casual NASCAR fan, I'm not really going to watch the All-Star race. It just doesn't interest me, so I'll wait till next week until it matters, right? I'm just not a fan of All-Star races, games. I'm not a big fan.
I mean, I grew up going to the All-Star race. I mean, the All-Star race is around near my birthday.
Yeah.
So my dad used to take me there all the time. And some of my best memories are birthdays that were had on the front stretch at Charlotte Motor Speedway, because Charlotte had the All-Star race, every year for a long time.
No, if you went like every year, I think it'd be different. It is dark, and it is finally raining outside.
A little dark and stormy,
Let us know what it's doing where you are in the upstate. It is raining and getting a little dark here in Greenville. Some daily wires. The Braves host the Padres tonight, 7:20. Max Fried on the mound for Atlanta. Big night for the Braves. Tough team. Padres are a good team. You're going to really be tested, Atlanta. Let's see what you do. Timberwolves, Diesel, tied a series last night with a win over the Denver Nuggets. The series now tied 3-3. As you mentioned, not a good night for the Hurricanes last night, Diesel.
Rough.
What happened? What happened?
They had a 3-1 lead going into the third period. They gave up 3 goals in under 5 minutes to the same player, a natural hat trick. You don't see those very often.
Is giving up a 3-1 lead considered a choke job?
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
I would say yeah, especially when you had all the momentum behind you. That's a choke.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I just wanted to see what you thought.
Especially when you have 15 minutes to get out there and score and tie it up, and they had opportunities. They had multiple really good-looking looks at the net, and they couldn't convert.
Clemson takes game 1 last night against Boston College, 12-10. They took game 2 earlier today. That game just went final a few minutes ago. Diesel, 11-6. So the Tigers do what they should have done and won the series against the former Walford Terrier Todd Interdonato and the Boston College Eagles. Big win for the Tigers this weekend.
Yeah, it's a get-right series.
Yep, it was. It really was, except not a get-right game last night for the Gamecocks.
It's still bad, though, when you've given up 16 runs in 2 games to Boston College, a bad baseball team.
Yeah, it's not the best. Gave up way too many runs last night. South Carolina dropped game 1 of the series, as we all expected they would, to Tennessee, 9-3. Diesel, that would be 4 conference losses in a row.
Not good. Not good. South Carolina Gamecocks are slumping at exactly the wrong time.
Brad called in earlier and asked the question, if they get swept, do they miss the tournament altogether? We'll have to get to that.
No, I don't think they'd miss it altogether. I think they would still squeak in.
Somewhere.
If they miss it altogether, there's no way Mark Kingston survives.
No. I agree with that. Local baseball, Diesel. North Greenville dropped game 1 of their own regional last night, losing to Georgia College and State. That's one team, by the way.
What?
Yeah, seriously. That's the name of it. Georgia College and State. Not 2 different schools, one school.
There's Georgia State University, and then there's Georgia College and State.
Georgia College and State. Yeah, I know. So not a good night for North Greenville last night. Score was 9-5. One more loss, and the Trailblazers season comes to an end. Game 2 is going on right now. I'll try to get an update on that because it started at 2:00, so it should be getting close to the final stretch. Also,
I'll look it up for you.
Okay, appreciate that. See if they can get it done before the rain starts. New York looks to close out Indiana tonight as they have a 3-2 series lead over the Pacers. So the Knicks might advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
They're asleep at the wheel up there. Nobody at NGU is posting anything on their Twitter. Let's go to their official website, see if they've got a live score.
Yeah, they should on their website. If you go to the NGU baseball schedule,
yep.
You might have to click on live stats. You may not have to. Sometimes, you know how people do when they lose, they don't post scores. When they win, they post scores. I hate that, man. I absolutely hate that.
Stats. We're getting there. There's got to 8 menus we got to click through. Oh, Probably shouldn't have looked that up.
Not good?
No, probably shouldn't have looked that up.
No.
Your North Greenville currently down 10-9.
Ooh.
Top of the 8th, 1 out.
Wow. Not good. They
gave
are
up a 4-run first to Wingate.
Ooh. They're a loss away from their season coming to an end. That's not good as they were this year.
I mean, if NGU's season is over and South Carolina's season is over, is it possible that this is the opportunity that Landon Powell's been waiting for?
I love it. I really would. It's the weather's coming down, so that game may be delayed a little bit.
Madcraft says Georgia College and State just found my team for CFB 25.
There you go.
You're going to create.
Well, that's Division
You're
2.
going to create a school, but you could probably create a school.
Oh yeah, that's true.
In there, yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Madcraft says something interesting here, and I'd thought about this, man. I'm glad that you brought it up. It says, I bet they're treating that cop like they treated Will Ferrell and the other guys. Probably gave him a wooden gun. Man, like, I thought about this. I'm like, this guy is never going to live it down. If all these charges are dropped, he will never live this down. They are going to call him Happy Gilmore in that precinct for the rest of his career.
He better move.
Right?
You're right. He better transfer out. You better believe it.
Cole, man, that's a fantastic. Thank you, Madcraft, for bringing that up and reminding me of that. When we come back, Cole, it's time for you and I to square off and fight and disagree. And then for the listeners, the Tolos, to tell us who wins. That's the 5 o'clock fight, and it's coming up next right here on the Fan Upstate. Scotty Scheffler, ice in his veins, came out and shot a 5 under today. Tied for third right now at -9. Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele tied for the lead at -11. So Scotty Scheffler just 2 shots back. He'll say, I got him right where I want him. Welcome to Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. If you're listening on your phone on the free Odyssey app, what's up? If you're listening after the fact on a podcast somewhere, awesome. Do us a favor. Whatever platform you're listening on, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, whatever it is, hit the like button, the subscribe button, the follow button, whatever you see there, hit it. And that way we can keep growing this thing. Call at 5 o'clock each and every day. You and I always get it on. We fight it out. We go head to head. We butt heads and we never agree ever. As a rule, that's kind of the bit. It's the 5 o'clock fight. Thank you, voiceover guy. That's how it works. There are 3 rounds to the fight. We pose a question. We each give differing opinions. We argue it out vehemently, and you, the Tolos, decide by texting in at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us who wins each round of the fight. You can also be in the comment section on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. You can't get to the end of the fight with getting started with the fight. Here we go with round number 1. Cole, when you squeeze past somebody in a movie theater, do you point your butt at them or do you point your front at them?
So I had to use the illustration of a sporting event because that was the last time that I had to do this.
You don't go to movie theaters?
It's been probably 7 years.
Oh, my God.
Maybe 6-7 years since I've been to a movie theater, Diesel.
Okay.
But when I have done this and when I have to do this in this very situation, the last thing I want to do is see the person, look them in the eye, and have to acknowledge that I am walking by them within less than 3 centimeters. So to answer your question, Diesel, I definitely want to give them the butt. I don't want to be looking at them while the awkward exchange happens.
We're going to make a promo out of that, by the way. I definitely give them the butt.
I give them the butt and I keep moving, okay? Because that's the way it is.
So you think of it like when you're watching your dog do his business and he stares you right in the eyes, you feel awkward with it.
It is awkward.
Nah, man, I give him the front. It's a power move. Plus, Cole, whenever you face away from somebody, you're always looking back to make sure if they're standing, if they're sitting, if they're pulling their feet back. You might as well just turn around and face them, right? Give them the front. Show them who's boss.
I hate awkward
situations.
situations.
And what if it's
man?
a cute girl? You make eyes and be like, hey.
Well, that's different.
You like what you see, baby?
I just don't want to. Listen, the less awkward situations I'm in, the better. I don't want to have to face the music and look at someone in the eye while I'm personally walking past them within centimeters.
Mad Craft says, come on, you know he don't watch no movies.
No, I do. I love going to the movie theater, but I'm serious. It's been 6 years since I've been.
So when you squeeze past somebody at an event, you're in the middle aisle. You got to get to the end. When you squeeze past them, which body part do you point at them? The front or the rear? Cole gives them the rear. Here we go with round 2. After the event this morning, the happening, the brouhaha, the dust up with Scotty Scheffler and the Louisville Police, should the PGA ever play in Louisville again?
I say no. I think this is a terrible black eye, and I think they handled it the wrong way. The officer handled it the wrong way, and because of that, Diesel, Louisville shouldn't get this event again. Screw them. Take it somewhere else. They handled it the wrong way, and no, they should not ever play another PGA championship in Louisville.
Wow, that is harsh, man.
It is.
This is a beautiful golf course. It is a world-class golf course that you're going to what? Just give back to the people of Louisville? Now, of course, the PGA should play in Louisville again. It was an unfortunate incident. It's not like this was premeditated, right? It's not like, Colin Morikawa or somebody like that was like, yo, I'll slip you a 20 if you take Scotty out of his car this morning, guys.
You
it's
never
not
know.
like that.
Could have happened.
It's not like that. I did see, though, a lot of funny memes this morning and GIFs of like, Rory McIlroy making his way into Valhalla, and it's a clip from a movie where Sinbad rolls his window down and says, "You having a problem?"
Did you see the one of the Bronco where it said, "This is Scotty on the way to the Valhalla after leaving the pen"?
Oh man,
that one's good.
Yeah, that's rough.
No, man, screw them. Screw
you
them. You don't do that crap.
It was an accident. Here we go with round 3. Cole, how do you eat an Oreo cookie? Do you bite through it, or do you separate the layers?
So when I eat an Oreo cookie,
I love Oreos.
I do too.
It's one of the best things in life.
The only correct way, and again, as people know, these are fights. We're splitting hairs on a lot of these. I'll do them both ways, but the best way to eat an Oreo cookie, Diesel, is to dip it in milk and take a bite. I want it submerged in milk, and I want it a little soggy, the milk dripping off, and then I'm ready for the bite.
Man, I can see that in slow motion, and now I'm picturing you do it, and I'm uncomfortable. No, I separate the layers. I don't know how this started in my life, but I've always, for some reason, Cole, used my bottom teeth to like hook the top layer of cookie, pry it off, eat that part, and then I eat the other half. And it's always a surprise. Like, am I going to get just cookie?
Yeah.
Am I going to get some cookie with the cream attached to it as well? Or is the other side going to be 50% cookie, 50% cream? I don't know why I do it that way. I just always have. I separate the layers. I don't twist them. I use my teeth. Just bite it right off.
See, when I separate, I twist.
You twist. Okay,
Yeah.
You're a twister.
I'm a twister.
Okay.
But listen, man, you got to dip that thing in milk. You got to get it soggy.
We
then
don't
the
have milk
milk's-
in the house anymore. Yeah, I haven't had milk. But probably once or twice in the last 5 years.
I don't buy it either because I don't drink it.
I don't buy it. It just shows up.
But if you have Oreos and you want to eat them correctly, you got to have milk.
There you go. Those are our 3 rounds. Round 1, when you squeeze past somebody in a movie theater or a sporting event, do you give them the butt or do you give them the front? Cole gives them the butt. I give him the front. Round 2, should the PGA ever play in Louisville again? Cole says, hell no. It was a crazy thing. You got to take your tournament away. I say, come on. It was just an unfortunate accident. It's not like it was premeditated. In the final round, how do you eat an Oreo cookie? Do you bite through it or do you separate the layers? Cole always dunks in milk. He always bites through the cookie. I separate the layers. Who wins the fight? You tell us. Would love to hear what you want us to fight about. Email me, diesel@thefanupstate.com. Put the word fight in the subject line, and we will fight about what you want us to fight about. Now it's up to you, the Tolos, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us who won each round of the 5 o'clock fight. Tell us who won overall. Give us your opinions. You could be completely wrong, right? You might come with a completely different perspective than what either one of us came with. You tell us. You can also jump into the comment section of the live video stream. Would love to get you Tolos in there. We got 144 in there. Let's get it up to 175 by the end of the 6 o'clock hour. Can we do that? Can we get 175 Tolos watching the stream?
I think so.
Right now, I think we can make that happen. But tell us who won the fight.
Texter from the 770 says Cole round 1, Diesel with the win, cleaning up the last 2. Another paid off Tolo.
The truth is, Cole, there is no bad way to eat an Oreo.
That's true.
There's no bad way.
That's true.
But I don't have milk in the house anymore, so I'm not going to dunk it in almond milk. That's weird.
It is weird, but I think I would still try.
We keep almond milk in the house just because it lasts longer, and it takes a little while to get used to.
Yeah, it does.
But
It's
eventually you're like, oh yeah, this is milk. It's not milk at all, but it's close enough.
Texter says dunking Oreos in milk is the only way. That comes from Chase G. Thanks, Chase G. Madcraft, he's going to give Diesel the round 1 win on passing by someone facing the front. Madcraft's going to give me round 2. He says he was the freaking number 1 golfer in the world. You arrested the best golfer on the planet. And Madcraft says, dang, Diesel, cookies go in milk. Cole round 3. So we are split a few rounds.
It's a tough balance. And as a kid, I used to love playing that waiting game when you dunk the Oreo in the cookie, or the Oreo in the milk. And it was a waiting game. Like, all right, what's going to happen here? How long can I go before this just disintegrates and falls to the bottom? Right? So you don't want to go that long, but you don't want it to go so long that it's just complete mush.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a weird way. It may be weird. It may not be weird. But I want you, Diesel, and the Tolos to tell me if it's weird or not. I like soggy, right, on certain foods.
You like floppy bacon, too.
I like floppy bacon. When I go to a Mexican restaurant, let me tell you something I do. Tell me if it's weird. Tell me if you do it, or is it just me? Everybody at the Mexican restaurant, you eat the chips, right, while you wait on your food. If you really want to do it right, you dip them in cheese dip. However, when I dip my chips in cheese dip, I let the chip sit for like 10 seconds. It gets really soggy, and it's 10 times better. Am I the only one?
That's wrong, man.
No.
Come on.
You never done that?
No.
Oh, my God.
A chip is supposed to have crunch. Bacon is supposed to have crunch.
It's just full of
This is the
cheese,
way.
man. It's just cheesy goodness. Am I the only one that seriously does that? There's no way.
Have you ever tried it with the salsa dip, too?
No, because the salsa dip it doesn't. For whatever reason, I have tried it. To answer
Well,
your question.
you got to be able to hold the salsa on the
That's
chip.
true.
The chip is the delivery system for the salsa, but the cheese has the viscosity, right? It'll stick to the chip.
It does. It sticks to it. It makes it a little bit floppy.
Madcraft says, "Okay, alien. Nobody else eats their chips that way.
There's no way, man.
No one."
Texter says, Cole, I'm good with that as long as you don't mix salsa into my cheese dip. That's fighting stuff. See, like, I don't mix salsa and cheese dip, but I don't mind a little bit of both on the chip, right? I don't mind a little bit of cheese and a little bit of salsa. I like that.
Those are great things. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the more the
All
better.
these things are great together.
Texter says, when I eat Oreos, I always eat 4 to dip. Then the last one goes in before I dip the fourth. I drink the rest of the milk with a Oreo in it.
Yeah, when the Oreo sinks to the bottom, that's like a little surprise at the bottom of the bag, you know? Man, I'm going to tell you a story right here. This is when I realized that I needed a new roommate. I was in college, and my roommate one day made himself lunch, sandwich, potato chips, and a couple of Oreos, right? He had 3 Oreos on his plate. He ate 2.5 of the Oreos and then threw the other half an Oreo in the trash.
No way.
I looked at him, I was like, what are you doing?
Terrorist.
What are you doing? He goes, I wasn't hungry anymore.
That's
like, what?
Yeah, that's a
What?
crime.
Huh?
That's worse than what Scotty did.
I don't like. First of all, like, how full can you be that another half of an Oreo is going to make you burst at the seams, like you're the girl who turned into a blueberry in Willy Wonka?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree. Texter says you can eat them together. Talking about the salsa and the cheese, you just can't get cheese dip into my salsa bowl. I got you.
Well,
I got you.
I think if you're going to do that, you got to bite the bullet and pay for an extra queso dip. That way you can mix your own. If that's what you want to do, go for it. A little live score update here, Cole. Still 10-9. Top of the okay. They have not updated.
They're in a rain delay. I just got a text.
Rain delay. Gotcha. So nothing has changed since the last time we saw the score. 10-9.
It's coming down.
Wingets in the top of the 8th with 1 out.
Brian on the stream says, by the way, we're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can not only listen to the show, but you can watch the show every day. Brian says the Greek festival going on in downtown Greenville. You did mention that was this weekend, Diesel, but wonder how the rain affects that.
Well, it's as far as I know, it's supposed to rain tomorrow, but should be decent weather on Sunday. So
more rain tomorrow?
Yeah, dude.
We didn't listen to the weather forecast on Odyssey, on the Fan Upstate. Your trusted weather forecast. Diesel, why can't we start? I mean, I took meteorology in college, okay? I can look at a radar and tell you when it's going to rain. Maybe they'll let us start doing the weather updates.
Yeah, there's about, looking at tomorrow's conditions, there's about a 50% chance of rain around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, there's the highest chance is about a 25% chance of rain. So
no. You got to close it. Saying this is Diesel with your weather forecast.
And this is Diesel with your weather forecast.
Do-do-doom, do-do-doom.
Do-do-doom, do-doom.
I might go to the Greek festival. I like it.
Fantastic sound effects coming out of the show, by the way.
Yeah, they're pre-produced. That's what we're trying to do. Listen, that's just what you get. That's what you get. Greek festival, I have not been in probably, Brian, 3 or 4 years. It's been a while.
Ooh.
I do
I
love
love
it, though.
everything. I spend so much money at the Greek Festival.
What's your favorite thing at the Greek Festival?
All of it. The lamb burgers
No,
are always
yeah.
fantastic.
Oh.
I love a good spanakopita, a souvlaki. All of it's good, man.
What are those Greek, excuse me, those Greek desserts, the pastry that are flaky? You know what I'm talking about? Help me out, somebody. Tolos, the Greek desserts. It's like a triangle pastry, right? And
baklava?
Yes. Oh my word. Come on.
Yeah, baklava's
Come
fantastic.
on. That's the best thing.
I always go there and eat my body weight, and I'm gonna butcher this. So sorry to our Greek listeners. Dolmatis.
What is that?
It's like ground lamb and rice wrapped in grape leaves. So it's essentially
taco.
You could think of it as a Greek egg roll.
Oh, Greek egg roll.
It's wrapped in grape leaves. Oh, it's so good.
Texter says Clemson softball with an awful loss. Clemson baseball with another masterclass showing. Lefty Tiger chimes in. Another texter.
Masterclass? You barely beat a bad Boston College
I don't know if
team.
they're.
I'm not sure that's a masterclass.
Hopefully they're being sarcastic.
They gave up what, 6 today?
Yeah. Diesel wins 3. Cole wins 1 and 2. Dunk Oreo and the milk is the best, says G. Another texter says, I used to get nacho steak and cheese at Broncos. You would have to use a fork at the bottom to get all of the cheesy goodness. That is, you know what, man? We got to stop talking about
I'm hungry.
Yeah,
we have an hour and 45 minutes, texters. This is mean for you to be talking about food with an hour and 45 minutes left to go in the show.
It really is. Texter says meme humor. Do what? I don't know if that is looks like a spam text. I don't even know what that means. I can't read that. I don't know what that means. Do we get spam? Are there such thing as spam text on this show?
Yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Does that not look like a spam text?
It does. It doesn't make any sense.
Hey, spammer, if you're listening, quit texting the freaking show, spammer.
Now, look what you've done. We're going to get more of those. Thank you, Cole. Gosh.
I was listening to, real quick before we hit a break, I was listening to a show the other day where one of the hosts took a spam call live on the air, and each host had to at least, it was like a round robin, you know? Like one person said one thing, the spammer would say another thing, then it was your turn. It was quite comical. They were all, they ended up, the spammer hung up. You got to get them to hang up.
I love taking phone calls from like cold callers.
Yeah.
Because then I try to sell them something back.
Sure.
Like, hey, you know what? I'm a cold caller as well. Would you like to buy 12 CDs for $1?
Or I always try to piss them off. That's my goal usually. I'll just say stupid things until they get mad.
Or you just put the phone down. Just let them talk. Let them talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm in
mute.
the other room. I'm in the other room. I'm not even listening to them. Just let them waste their damn time.
Xander Schauffele leads. He is 12 under right now. Mighty impressive. We'll take a break.
Not
Come
as
back.
Impressive as his 9 under yesterday. Just a paltry 3 under today.
He's rolling. On the other side, Diesel, we didn't get to a couple of questions regarding Scotty Scheffler. Okay, if you lived under a rock today, I have to tell you, Scotty Scheffler, the world's #1 golfer, was arrested. We'll get back into that. We'll answer some questions. We'll allow you, the Tolos, to answer those questions as well. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire, the newest afternoon drive show on your radio dial. So many ways to watch, so many ways to listen. We're live on Facebook, live on Twitter, live on YouTube each and every day. You can also listen 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. You can even say, hey, Alexa, play the Fan Upstate. And you can listen to us that way as well. Let's get back into the number one news story today. What will be the number one news story tomorrow? What will be the number one news story on Sunday? Probably again on Monday. But you all saw it. You all reacted. I don't know how you first saw it this morning. I'd love to hear from you, the Tolo, on how you just found, like, for me, I woke up to a picture of him in handcuffs talking about Scotty Scheffler, and it caught me by storm. Then turned on the TV and saw that he was taken away in a police car.
The fact that ESPN's Jeff Darlington was right there watching the whole thing. I mean, could you have breaking news break any faster than that? You got to have him calling the network offices like, get me on the air right now. Get me on the air right now. Scotty Scheffler's being arrested. I have to tell this story.
Man, I appreciate your
break into whatever's going on to get him on the air. Yeah, man. What a wild scene out there in Valhalla, in Kentucky this morning, man. Crazy stuff. We're asking a lot of questions here about who is in the right and who is in the wrong. Again, I know that we have some police officers who listen to this show. Cole, we need one of our police officer listeners to call in and give us his opinion and his reaction to what happened. Again, you don't have to give your affiliation. You don't have to tell us if you're a city cop, a county cop, a sheriff's deputy. You don't have to tell us where you're calling from. We will leave it completely anonymous here, but we would love to hear from you based on the description that we have, which isn't uber detailed. We do have some details, but not a lot of details. We would love to hear from some of our listeners in blue.
What would happen if this was a golfer that no one even knew about? Like,
he'd be in jail right now.
He wouldn't be
Tiger Woods. He might have got shot.
He wouldn't be. Oh man, he wouldn't even be there. I don't know that we'd be talking about it.
No,
I really don't know that we'd be talking about it.
No.
So I asked the question: what now happens to the remaining charges? And we're going to go to the phone lines in a minute because I do want to get back to something we talked about earlier in the show, Diesel, and our audience is buzzing about. But what will happen to the remaining charges? One, by the way, is a felony for assaulting a police officer. In your opinion, Diesel, does this all just disappear, go away?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. There's no way. There's no way that he goes to jail for this. I mean, the governor can pardon people. The governor of Kentucky has already come out with a statement. You had that statement before. I don't know if you still have it handy. But he did have a statement. So I don't think that, somebody's getting a phone call from the governor. Put it that way.
The governor.
Right? Somebody, that's the in South Carolina, it's the governor of South Carolina. But if it's in California, it was the governor.
We're talking about Governor Andy Beshear.
Yeah.
He put out a tweet that said, this morning an incident occurred outside the PGA Championship that resulted in the heartbreaking death of a fellow Kentuckian. Our hearts are broken. We continue to pray for the victim's family. The events that occurred afterward are an unfortunate result of this tragic incident, and we are hopeful that all parties involved can come to a resolution. I think Scheffler Diesel needs to call Shohei Ohtani and say, look, how'd you get out of it? How'd you get out?
He said, no speak English.
Scotty don't have that excuse, does he?
No. I mean, people have already heard him speak English. It's too late now. Maybe that might be the most brilliant thing Shohei ever did, was pretend that he knows no English at all. We know Shohei speaks a little bit of English. We've heard it, right? A little bit. But he's played behind that curtain of, well, I don't speak English.
I do. To answer my own question,
Scheffler sounds awfully German to me.
I do agree with you that I don't think anything will happen. I think he will walk away and they will find a way to just not, I don't want to say sweeping under the rug, but I think they'll find a way to do what the governor said and both parties come to an agreement.
Ricky says he'll pay his way out of it. That's Ricky Molinax watching the Tolo watching on the stream.
Will he pay his way out of it, or will he sue Louisville?
I would think if the charges are not dropped by the end of the day, Scotty's probably suing, because think about, he'll make up some like cockamamie emotional distress. I'm going to sue you for $10 million for emotional distress, whatever, and you hurt me too. Yeah, we sent the story which read that the officer went to the hospital and was treated for road rash on his wrist.
Yeah.
Oh, poor officer.
Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers.
Pray for his kids, right?
Yeah.
But Scotty Scheffler, I mean, consider that fact. Consider the fact that they could have irreparably injured the world's number one golfer.
Yeah.
And cost him millions of dollars.
Before we get to the phone call, Diesel, what I thought was so fascinating, Jeff Darlington reported this morning that one of the officers that was involved with the arresting officer walked up to Jeff and said, "Hey, do you know that guy's name?" with a pad and paper. The officers had no idea who he was. No idea.
Yeah, I mean, we had that story a couple of weeks ago with David Tepper walking into the bar, the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I am drinking water today out of my commemorative Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Look at you.
Stadium cup right on. And the people who worked inside that bar had no idea who Dave Tepper was.
People just don't know. You can't assume people know everything.
Well, and it's you. Sometimes you need context, right?
Sure.
You need to know the context of. You need to know that they're coming. You need to know that this guy comes in here a lot. You need to have seen his photo. You maybe need I can imagine what it's like being in a restaurant where you got hundreds of people coming through your door every day, and police officers deal with the exact same thing. They deal with dozens and dozens of people every single day. I wouldn't expect a police officer working a crime scene in Louisville, Kentucky to know who Scotty Scheffler is.
Texter says, this is Trey in Kentucky. Kentucky's a Commonwealth state. Laws are, shall we say, different there.
What do you mean, Trey?
Yeah, let us know what you mean by that.
What do you mean?
You can also text your thoughts and answer the question that I asked if you think the charges will go away. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Let's go to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, where Chipper, by the way, great name, Chipper, stands by. Wanted to get his thoughts in. He was at the Somerville baseball game last night. Chipper, number one, appreciate you listening and giving us a little insight, because it has been a hot button topic of conversation. What was it like last night when all this went down?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, by the way. And it got really rowdy there fast. So going into the game, so me and one of my buddies that I coach with, because I coach at Dutch Fork, we were going over this. He was like, "Okay, Thayer has to stay under 75," and so I'm like, "Okay." And so we're getting late into the innings. I still see him coming out to the mound. It's about the sixth inning. Apparently, he hasn't hit his pitch limit yet. I get a text that says, "Ashridge just won this game because he went over." And I said, "There's no way that their coach didn't catch on to this." I said, "There's something you're missing." And lo and behold, after they dogpiled and, they shook hands, the umpires went up to the Somerville coaches and said, "You guys are going to have to forfeit this game." And then it was a melee.
Just to set the scene, Diesel, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Diesel. I'll let you ask the question. Just to set the scene for those that have just tuned in that may not understand what we're talking about here. We talked about this a lot earlier in the show, but last night, lower state championship, Dutch Fork, excuse me, I misspoke. I saw Dutch Fork on the text line and went the wrong way there. Somerville versus Ashley Ridge, lower state championship. Somerville, Scott Eisberg tweeted out that Somerville had won the game. A few minutes later, he retweeted that tweet with a quote and said, "Wait a minute, the umpires have come out with someone from Ashley Ridge, pitch count violation," and now that is all up in the air. And it's just a fascinating story.
So, Chipper, first of all, we got to know how you feel about your name being used for a little cartoon pickle mascot for the Spartan Burgers, the new baseball team up here. Number two, can you tell us, you said you coach with Dutch Fork. Are you the head coach at Dutch Fork?
No, sir, I'm not. I'm actually just an assistant.
Okay, so So give us an idea who on staff, on a general staff. I know you don't know the ins and outs of this particular staff, but generally speaking, there should be someone on staff whose job it is to know the rules and track the rules, right? I mean, shouldn't this be that? Would this be the head coach's head for making this mistake, or would it be that I don't know what you would even call that position of coach, whose job it is to make sure all the rules are being followed?
Unfortunately, I would put the blame on the head coach at the end of the day, because, our head coach asks our game changer guy between every inning what our pitcher is at, because, the rule just changed, but, also the rule, this particular rule we had to make sure of, because when we played Fort Mill, we weren't sure of it, and we had to double check, because we could have been screwed. And so it at the end of the day, it is the coach's fault, but it tends to that rule, it slipped their mind, and that happened.
Chipper, you mentioned the guy that keeps Game Changer, the stats. Is that an assistant coach? Usually,
for us, it's not. Some teams might have that do, but some teams, have a coach that keeps the book, or they'll do the Game Changer. But for us, it's a parent, and we go to him after every inning,
wow,
and so forth. But
how about
I don't know what it's like over at Somerville. I am from Somerville, so I'm an Asher Ridge graduate, but I was neutral last night because I had to be. But,
well, you know what? It's a tragic incident, and number one, we appreciate your thoughts. But I guess my last question for you, since you were there, is Scott Eisberg. We had him on earlier. Have you ever, in your life of watching sports, have you ever seen something like what you saw last night with Somerville dogpiling, celebrating, being at the highest of highs, punching their ticket to the state championship, and then a few minutes later, roles reversed?
I have never seen anything like it. After the game, a bunch of the kids were devastated, pacing around the field. I didn't know what to do personally. AR, they did a good job of getting their kids out of there. They quickly got on the bus and left. So it was mostly just Somerville parents, Somerville kids, and we were sitting there just taking it all in. And it definitely became, last night was probably a dark place in Somerville for sure.
Yeah, Chipper, can you give us a sense of what the crowd was like after that ruling came down? We see, all the time we see videos of parents and families getting unruly in the stands, and this is obviously a much bigger game than a Little League game where a lot of those stories come from. But, there's something big on the line, a trip to the state championship series. What was it like? Did it get ugly in the stands?
Not to my knowledge, and not what I saw did it get really ugly. I was scrambling around, and a bunch of parents, they were frustrated and upset, but it never really got out of hand. The cops really did a good job of making sure both parents stayed on the other sides and everything. So, and a lot of us, it's a big rivalry, but a lot of these parents, and they're all friends. At the end of the day, it's not like a Somerville Berkeley where it's a mutual hate. This is 5 minute schools that are 5 minutes away from each other, where kids have grown up together, played travel ball throughout all their childhood growing up. So, yeah, it didn't get ugly, but who's to say it wouldn't have?
Yeah. Hey, Chipper, great stuff, man. We appreciate you calling in and give us a little insight. It's been a hot topic all day, and we'll see where it goes.
To have a random listener who was there, who saw it happen.
Well, I'll tell you this. We've had I've had 3 messages today from people in toward the lower part of the state, not all in Somerville, but people down there. And it's I have not seen anything at the high school level that's spreading like wildfire like this is, because this is unbelievable. And we had Brad from Somerville earlier call in, remember?
Yeah. It's wild to have 2 people from there, one who was at the game, who just so happens to be a coach at a school in the area.
Yeah, in Columbia.
Who was there. I mean, gosh, might have been a little bit of supporting your hometown. Might have been doing a little bit of scouting.
It's wild, man.
He was there.
It really is. Hey, but we appreciate our Tolos statewide, man.
We have the best Tolos. We have the best listeners in the state.
We really do. Not just in the upstate, Diesel. All right, what does Diesel have for us coming up next?
Yeah, Cole, on the other side, Clemson Georgia.
Oh boy. Noon.
How close does Clemson need to keep it before they get embarrassed?
Oh God.
If Clemson loses this game, how close does it need to be to still maintain their respect?
We're going there.
We're going there. On the other side. He's Cole Bryson. I'm Diesel. This is the Fan Upstates. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. You're the Tolos. Appreciate you being here, turning it on, leaving it on every single day. We're getting close to that 175 number, my friend. I asked for 175. We're at 161.
Heck yeah.
Let's do it. Come on now. 14 more of you jump in the stream on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. Just search for The Fan Upstate. Cole, we got the kickoff time yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
Clemson, Georgia, noon kickoff, week 1 of the season. I'm not calling it week 0. You can't make me. It's like, I'm not calling it X. It's Twitter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the first week of the season is week 1. I'll give a rip what the marketing gurus try to say. But the question is, Cole, I have for you Clemson fans and then for you Gamecock fans as well. How close does Clemson need to keep it to not get embarrassed by Georgia, to not start changing the narrative, officially changing the narrative that it's over the run at Clemson? So the series right now, 43 wins for Georgia, 18 wins for Clemson, 4 ties. Georgia is on a 2-game winning streak in this series, 2014 and 2021. Dabo is 1-2 against Georgia. Last year was a snooze fest in Charlotte, 10-3. We were all expecting something big. I'm going to unmute myself so that people can hear me on the stream. Cole is efforting his way back into the stream.
I have technical difficulties.
But, you know, Cole, the national media is looking at week 1, noon kickoff, as a sign that Clemson has fallen. The networks don't value Clemson anymore. They're expecting this to be a blowout. So how close does Clemson need to keep it? Should they not win, right? All right. I mean, both of us, I think, are probably predicting a Clemson loss here. Georgia's just, you know, looks like they're going to be an epic football team.
Yeah.
Clemson's probably going to lose this game. Anything could happen, right? But if Clemson loses, how tight do they need to keep it to not get blown out? Georgia brings back a ton of players with a chip on their shoulders for being left out of the college football playoff last year. People have a lot of questions about Clemson.
Explain what you mean to me by how tight do they keep it?
So think of it in the terms of like a moral victory. Like I hate moral victories. I don't like moral victories.
Sure.
But one aspect of a moral victory, Cole, is that you can keep the national narrative from getting out of control.
Like the respect.
Right, the respect factor.
I got you.
You know, if Clemson keeps it under X number of points, the narrative doesn't shift towards Dabo's officially lost it. This is going to be a long year. We suck. Things like that. So I look at it a couple different ways, Cole. I think for Clemson fans, they're going to allow this to be a 21-point loss.
Ooh.
Before they say, man, we're in deep doo-doo here. For the national media, I think it's probably more like 14.
Yeah, I would say more like 14 in order to keep it respectful.
You keep it within 2 touchdowns for the national. We're talking about
respect-wise.
Yeah, the national media talking about Clemson here. If you keep it within 2 touchdowns, it's like, oh, okay, you know, you just got beat by a better team.
I don't know if it gets to 20 or more. I think that's where you're in hot water. I think that's where you're in a little bit of lava, and that's where you're in trouble in terms of keeping the respect. I'll be honest with you, though. I think if Clemson loses altogether, national media realizes Clemson's
no matter what.
I think they realize that this dynasty's done. I do. I really do. I hate to be Debbie Downer, but I'm serious.
I mean, if everybody, outside of Columbia, of course, everybody's licking their chops, waiting for this thing to finally be declared dead, right?
They are.
So, I mean, you just think like the number doesn't have to be that big. The number doesn't have to be that big before those boo birds really get loud, and Dabo should have used the portal's voices will have even more fodder. But as for South Carolina fans, Cole, keep dreaming. They're never going to stop.
Keep drinking and dreaming.
Yeah, that too. You can't lead the league in ejections if you hadn't had a few cocktails before the game.
It's true.
They're never going to stop believing that Clemson has fallen off. So, keep dreaming on that one.
I don't know, man. I just think it's going to be one of those deals where, like, the only way, and I really mean this, the only way that Clemson could regain that respect back from the national media's perspective is to knock Georgia off. I don't think there's a loss in play where you still get the benefit of the doubt. I really don't. I think you have to beat them to get the respect back.
Spartanburg J. I love you, pal. Spartanburg J texting in says, see, Cole, Diesel's always coming up with topics playing to us Clemson fans' feelings. That's why I'm always giving him grief. However, Clemson needs to stay within 10 to 14. Spartanburg J, don't you realize that's our jobs? That's our jobs to get you in your feels so that you text into the show. That's the whole point, man. Like, this narrative of, oh, you're only doing things for the clicks. Of course we are. Everyone's doing things for the clicks. That is this entire business. We are in the attention business.
All right, coming up next, we will talk a little NASCAR. It's time to turn left because we're going to have Shane Connick join us in the very next segment to talk about the All-Star race this weekend.
EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Upstate.
WIRE Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan.
Upstate.
An Odyssey sports station. You ready? Let's go.
It's alive!
From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
On the Fan Upstate.
Little programming note, you can join us next Wednesday from 3 to 7 at Ingalls Markets, 1524 Locust Hill Road in Greer. We'll be doing the show live from inside the corner market and hooking you up with a $25 gift card if you know the answer to our trivia clues. Joined now by Shane Connick, NASCAR reporter for the Charlotte Observer. We have reports that Shane is on the ground in North Wilkesboro. Shane, first question. This is a biggie. If you get the answer wrong, we might just have to end the interview right here, right now. Is store-bought moonshine? Shane, you got us?
I got you. It's store-bought moonshine.
Hey, Diesel and Cole Bryson really bring it on wire to wire.
I turn it on and leave it on.
Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate.
I think it is.
Oh, Shane. For shame, Shane. How dare you?
You know, they just went over a whole thing with us before when they unveiled Richard Petty's hat, a Moonshine Motorsports. They're really pushing that whole narrative this whole weekend up here.
Shane Connick
very much intertwined.
Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer joining us on Wire to Wire. We will talk about the All-Star race coming up very shortly. He covers NASCAR. You can follow him on Twitter at Shane_Connick. Does great work, and you can check him out every single Friday on this very station. But let's go first to Darlington, the Goodyear 400. Last week, another crazy ending, Shane. Brad Keselowski this time puts a Ford in victory lane for the very first time this season. Your thoughts on Darlington?
A lot of thoughts there. That was a race that we had last week at Darlington. I was down by the track for the entirety of the race this time and noticed toward the end, watching it on the screen, when Tyler Reddick went right in front or threw Chris Buescher into the wall. At that point before that, it had appeared like it was Buescher's race to win. Tyler Reddick started from the pole, was leading for most of it. And then when Buescher made that move, first he pushed his teammate, Brad Keselowski, and then eventually just cuts to the left and gets right by Reddick and Keselowski. And at that point, Buescher's got it. His race, he's going to be the first Ford to get into victory lane. And then when Tyler Reddick makes that move to put him into the wall, but I was down there right away. Keselowski's doing his burnout and all that. It was tense in general. A lot of Ty Gibbs kind of came in the other way. It was a particularly tense kind of post-race pit road. And then Chris Buescher just got out of his car and just went right for Reddick. There were probably 40, 50 swarm of reporters just right there. Phones, cameras just out, immediately capturing all of that. And was able to pretty much hear a lot of what Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick were saying. And you really were able to really quickly realize where they were both coming from. And that's racing. That's what happens. And just a really interesting thing to witness to end last week's race at Darlington.
Shane, do you believe that, every reporter, every person on pit road having a video camera and a high quality microphone on them at all times, do you think that has led to maybe the reduction in so much confrontation? I love it. That to me is what's entertaining and interesting, to see these high-level competitors get out of their cars and go after each other. But at the same time, they realize this isn't the old days, right? This is the 1970s or the 80s where if somebody throws a punch, maybe nobody actually catches it on film or in a photo. Like, do you think that has contributed to some of these guys calming down, or do you think it's just more crackdown from NASCAR? It says you guys will not do this and embarrass the sport this way.
I think it's both a lot, and also that there's that bit of PR and knowing how it's going to come off, especially if you're someone like Buescher, knowing Buscher's personality, knowing how badly he wants to win, it probably looks better for Buscher this whole week if he goes out there and reacts the way he did. And obviously, all of his comments from him made sense. All of Reddick's comments make sense, even though that Tyler's just a quieter type guy. So it kind of came off a little bit different if you're just watching it from the outside. But yes, those confrontations, obviously anything that can bring in more views, can bring in more eyeballs the sport needs. And I think that you also have to have the right people doing it, because obviously that goes with it. You can't have everybody being a jerk and being a bad look for the sport. And I think that what makes it great right now is when you have a guy like Kyle Busch who's not afraid to go out there and throw a punch sometimes. And then eventually you might get somebody like Chris Buescher to just get a little bit more animated and vocally explain his point of view in the moment, like we saw at Darlington.
Shane, I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, but when I watched the end of that race, it kind of looked like a black eye. It just wasn't, in my opinion, a really good look for Reddick, the race down the stretch, the way that he did drive Buescher up. And I think what happened after the race was 100% warranted from Chris. Do you think that gave Reddick a little bit of a bad look?
I think it did to an extent. I think because, especially as Buescher's point was, that Tyler has a win. And this is something that a lot of people were asking the rest of the Cup drivers about today, is just how important is it to get a win? And something that Tyler Reddick's own teammate Bubba Wallace said today is that it doesn't matter if you have 10 wins. You want to get 11 wins. These race car drivers, the one thing they want to do is to win. And so Tyler Reddick in the moment, even though he already had a win this year, in the moment I want to win this race that I have a good shot at winning right now. And he felt that was what he was going to do. Chris Buescher feels like he was acting even more conservatively, because he felt like he really, again, after coming 0.001 seconds of victory the week before, he felt like he just really needed that win. And it feels like Reddick might have made a bit more of kind of a gutsy move because he knew in his back pocket that he had won, and that's Chris Buescher's was. So I think that
we lose you, Shane?
I think we might have lost Shane here. I'm going to talk for just a second. Shane, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, good. We lost connection there with you just for a little bit. I understand, man. You're up in the foothills there in North Wilkesboro. We have an interesting question here from Madcraft. And I'm sure, obviously, you know the news, even though you're at a racetrack and following that. I'm sure you know the news about Scotty Scheffler's arrest this morning in Louisville. He follows that up with a 5-under 66 today. He was absolutely on top of it. But the question from Madcraft, I think it's an interesting one. Can you give us a NASCAR driver who, if they were arrested the morning of a race, would come out and use it to focus that anger and drive, one hell of a race after going through something like that?
You guys cut out a little bit there. Was it the point that you repeat that? Yeah, cut out a bit there.
Yeah, the question is there a driver in the NASCAR circuit who you look at who, if they were arrested the morning before a race, the same way Scotty Scheffler was this morning before his second round, would just use it to focus, and you have this feeling that they would just be, on fire on the track?
That is a great question, because it feels like everything about Scotty right now, it's not like he's the greatest golfer of all time. It's that right now, since the Masters, he's just been on such a tear that he is the best in the world at this particular moment. And then obviously the way that he has handled the whole thing, and I haven't gotten a chance to see the press conference that he just had this afternoon yet, but I would say that in NASCAR, that person, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin, because somebody who's that big of a name, he's known that much, he's that on top of the sport in the way that he is right now, being both a top driver and a top owner, the personality that he has that people follow and that other people who don't follow it might be able to resonate with immediately. I think that there's no bigger person for the sport to have something like that happen. And then we see how strong of a driver he is every week when nothing controversial does happen with him. So I would pick Denny Hamlin for that. And that is a great question.
Shane Connick joins us on Wire to Wire. He is a NASCAR reporter for the Charlotte Observer. Shane, let's go back to Brad Keselowski. We talked about Ford getting the win, but in my opinion, a little bit bigger of a deal, even though Ford is a big deal. They got their first win. It just seems as if Brad Keselowski getting his first win is a little bit bigger of a deal, thinking that, I can't remember exactly how long it's been, Shane, but when you look at the drought that Keselowski's been in, man, it feels like he really needed that one on Sunday.
He really did, and it had been years since he'd gotten his last win. And he's another one who's a former champion, who's now still involved with the sport, is both a full-time driver and a team owner. And again, unlike other drivers who are also team owners and are also previous champions and are in a lot of ways legends in the sport, we haven't really talked much about Brad Keselowski for the last couple of years because, like you guys just said, he's been winless since he won at Talladega. I believe it was 2021, maybe it was 2022. But it's been several years since Brad had gotten to victory lane. And again, it's not like he's just some random driver who's happened to be around for a while. Because of that, to your point, when you win a race, that almost assuredly locks you into the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. That said, Keselowski is now going to have a spot in the playoffs, obviously the first Ford driver to secure that spot. And again, this is a guy who won a championship 12 years ago and has been a top driver in the sport for a long time. You're now getting Keselowski into the playoffs, and this whole season, now we can really consider him to be a better driver who has a win under his belt in this year. It does mean a lot for Brad Keselowski, and again, he is somebody who's always a threat to get to victory lane for a long time.
Shane Connick joins us on the line here on Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. The NASCAR All-Star Race, you're there this weekend at North Wilkesboro. I know that NASCAR has already announced that the All-Star Race will return there in 2025. That would make it the third straight season. But what do you think NASCAR brass needs to see to maybe bring North Wilkesboro Speedway back as a regular track on the Cup circuit? Or is this kind of just a great novelty track and that's all it's going to be?
It feels like that's what it is right now. But what I think, or I would like to see more of it, is that leads to us seeing more tracks get revitalized. And so we see the success that North Wilkesboro has brought these last couple of years. And maybe, like you said, we can keep it on the Cup Series schedule in some way, whether that is moving the All-Star Race to a different event and getting this as just a spot to go back to, or if it's taking a track like Rockingham Speedway and bringing the Cup Series back to there in a role like this. I think that North Wilkesboro overall, just being up here, you get that whole vibe of how old school everything is. Obviously, last year when they did this for the first time, that was all the talk, and now they've repaved the track. It's a little bit different, but very much the same old feel that it had. And so I think that there are so many other smaller, older tracks in this area, especially in North Carolina, that NASCAR can and is going to be looking to revitalize in some way.
Shane, we talk about in college sports and NFL a lot, we use the term hot seat. And I want to ask, when you look at the 2024 NASCAR season and even go back a year, just so you can have more than 1 year in the sample size, what drivers, in your opinion, whether it be a guy like Martin Truex or a Michael McDowell or whoever you think would be considered on the hot seat if they can't get it done this year here in the regular season and punch their ticket to the postseason?
I would say that Stewart-Haas Racing overall is the biggest team drivers who are on the hot seat right now, because SHR is a team that obviously has great history in the sport, but with Kevin Harvick retiring last year, Josh Berry has filled that role with a number 4 car. And other than that, SHR has 4 cars in the Cup Series, but none of them, it feels like, you've had Chase Briscoe reach the championship before. Noah Gragson shows speed a lot of times. They're not a bad team by any means. And obviously Ryan Preece, it's been strong before. It's been in the Cup Series a while. And then now Josh Berry looks good as a rookie, but none of them seem like they're close to being that, even if they could maybe make the playoffs, not necessarily do much at that point. And again, SHR is a team that people regard like Hendrick or like JGR, and similar to Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing, has 4 cars in the Cup Series. At this point, it feels like inevitably whether it's in the next few years or whenever it ends up coming, that SHR will at least drop down to having 3 or maybe even 2 cup cars, because it's just not the big dominant team that it once was. But again, in the moment, it does have 4 cup cars still. And I want to share something that Kevin Harvick just told us in the first media availability that he has given to us in a while. Obviously, he retired last year and has been working as a broadcaster with Fox Sports through the early goings of this season. And he is filling in for Kyle Larson right now out there in the number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevy during qualifying, as Kyle Larson is in Indianapolis practicing for the Indy 500, attempting to be the 5th driver to run the double. And so what Kevin Harvick said, Kevin Harvick wearing a Kyle Larson Hendrick Motorsports fire suit. Very weird for a lot of these reporters who have seen Harvick in the SHR fire suit for as long as they've known him. And what Harvick said was about working with Mr. H's Team Hendrick was, yeah, it's nice to see the owner twice every 2 weeks, something like that, insinuating that Gene Haas, also a Formula One owner, and Tony Stewart hadn't been around SHR as much as some drivers may have liked. So I think that, to go back to the head about the hot seat, that SHR is going to be the biggest story, I think, in just being something that has been such a mainstay, big team, a lot of good drivers, good crew chiefs, that is now probably going to at least be losing at least one of their charters.
Shane, do you like the pit crew competition for pit stall assignment? I love it. I think it adds an extra little side quest to the All-Star weekend. And is it something that should be done every race?
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to see it yet, but that's going on this evening today on Friday, and I think it's a great idea. We really do want to just see more and more from these pit crews. I think there's a lot of really interesting stories there that don't often get told. A lot of these guys who are climbing over the fences are former college athletes. They're people who aren't necessarily grown up around racing or pit crews, but they've had other athletic skills, and those pit crews make a bigger and bigger impact on these races and on the teams that they work for. Especially with how the racing continues to get tighter and tighter, it comes down to, okay, which team pit crews executed the most efficiently, and that's usually what leads to people winning. And so I think that this is going to be a really great opportunity for a lot of fans to really see what the pit crews do. And if this can be something, like you guys said, that could be something that's not just done in the All-Star game or All-Star race, but is something that could continue in some way, I think that could be. I think the pit crew challenge, again, it's to be great to showcase, and that would be, and it's a cool way to have help set.
Shane, fantastic stuff as always, man. We appreciate you hopping on live at the track and look forward to talking to you again next week. That is Shane Connick. He joins us each and every Friday on this very program. Does a great job covering NASCAR for the Charlotte Observer. If you are not a NASCAR fan, I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do encourage you to at least give Shane a follow on Twitter. He's on Twitter at Shane_Connick. He does a really good job covering that sport, and I think you will enjoy his follow. I really do. All right, coming up on the very next side, we will have Daily Wires get you caught up on what's happening tonight in the world of sports. Live from the Ingalls Market Studios, it is Wire to Wire, finishing up your week, finishing up your Friday.
Ask
He's
me what I'm up
Diesel.
to over here, Cole.
I want to let you keep doing it for another 6 minutes, and then I'll ask you. So you have to do it for 6 minutes straight. What are you up to, Diesel?
I am twirling my mustache, considering my next sinister shenanigan. Per the
Shots
texter.
See, I don't give I don't give
texter.
I
No, we
don't
read
give those
everything.
text.
We
No,
read everything.
I don't give texters like
Texter
that.
says, "Thank God for Rob Brown. Thank God for Rob Brown." Fair and balanced sports journalist and salt of the earth sports radio personality to offset y'all's sinister shenanigans.
See, now you just gave them. They're like, yes, they read it.
Ooh, sinister shenanigans.
They read it. I don't read.
Watch out! I'll tie somebody to a railroad track.
I don't believe in reading shots fired text because all they want you to do is fall for the trap. I'm not falling for the trap. I'm not falling for it. I'm not going to read it. Diesel read it, but I'm not going to. Texter. This is the newest afternoon drive show on the Fan Upstate, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. Last night, the Braves didn't play, but they do play tonight. They host the Padres 7:20 Diesel. Max Fried gets the start for Hot Atlanta. Let's see if the Braves can continue their winning ways. They've been playing good ball lately.
Yeah, they have.
Padres are tough, man. We'll see if they can live up and knock off the old Padres.
Like, how do you explain a 1-5 road trip like they had in Seattle and in LA?
You can't.
How do you explain?
Bad baseball.
How does the entire team's bats go cold when the entire team had been hitting white hot before that?
It happens, I guess, right? Slumps.
Yep.
The Timberwolves tied the series with the Nuggets last night, winning 115-70. Series now tied 3-3. Hurricane season, it came to an end. They dropped Game 6 to New York 5-3, so no more hockey in the Carolinas until next year.
October, the season starts again.
Clemson, they took Game 1 versus Boston College yesterday, 12-10. What did they do today? They took Game 2, 11-6. So Clemson has won the series, won their final series of the season, and only one game remains.
They win one more, Cole. That's called a winning streak. It has happened before.
Diesel, ACC tournament, conference tournaments,
Yeah.
SEC, they begin next week.
We all know, Cole, that it's all about playing hot at the right time.
Yeah.
Clemson had that really tough series against Wake Forest. Maybe this Boston College series, I understand it's against Boston College. They are, I think, right at 500 or just below 500 on the season. So it didn't really say a ton that you're beating up on Boston College, right? And it's like beating your 9-year-old little sister in a game of horse. Doesn't really mean a whole lot. But, I mean, yeah, you're winning, right? You're winning when it matters. South Carolina is getting that ass waxed night in and night out on the baseball.
Well, let's plate that because after we get to the Daily Wires, I want to come back to South Carolina baseball and see, we had Brad from Somerville call in earlier and ask the question, if South Carolina goes and gets swept again this weekend, do they miss the tournament completely? So let's get back to that in just a few moments. Speaking of South Carolina, they dropped Game 1 of the series yesterday to Tennessee, losing 9-3. Game 2 starts in 2 minutes. 2 minutes from now. North Greenville, they had their own regional. They had such a good year. They got to host. They didn't have a good conference tournament, but they ended up being a host site in the D2 baseball regional. Dropped Game 1 yesterday to Georgia College and State. That's one school, 9-5. One more loss, and the season is over. Last update I got was top of the ninth. North Greenville had one out remaining, but they did have two runners on. I have not gotten an update. So the North Greenville new mascots are now one out away from having their season come to an end. I just got an update. A wild pitch. North Greenville scores. It's 11-10. 2 outs, top of the ninth. They have a chance to
so you're telling me there's a chance.
They do. They have a chance to tie this thing up if they can continue to they're an out away from their season being over.
Cole, I just looked up the D1 baseball postseason projections, the field of 64. These projections came out 2 days ago. A lot has changed for both of these teams. But as of right now, Cole, this could get juicy. South Carolina is the 2 seed in the Clemson region. Wow.
Well, that would make sense if they don't host, right? And real quick, by the way, one more point. New York looks to close out Indiana. They play tonight. They have a 3-2 series lead. So, Diesel, you're saying South Carolina and Clemson could play again, possibly?
Yep, looks like it. Again, this is 2 days ago.
Yeah.
A couple of games have been played since then. Who knows where these projections could change and go. They have not updated them since. But as of right now, Clemson is the number 6 national seed. They are hosting the regional with South Carolina as the 2 seed, College of Charleston the 3, and Wright State as the 4 seed.
I like that.
Coastal Carolina, they have Coastal Carolina making a regional, being the 3 seed in the Charlottesville, with Virginia, UC Santa Barbara, Coastal is the 3, and Columbia as the 4. I'm going to give a quick scroll down this to see if there's any other teams of interest. Obviously, Tennessee being the host of their region. I see, Cole, great radio as I'm scrolling. North Carolina will host the Chapel Hill Regional with Alabama, UNC Wilmington, and Fairfield. The Greenville region, East Carolina host Duke, the 2 seed, UNCG, the 3, and High Point, the 4. Athens regional, Georgia will host NC State 2, UCF 3, Austin P 4. And let's see, the Winston-Salem regional, Wake Forest host Oregon, the 2 seed. Florida State will host a regional as well.
I'm looking right now at D1 baseball current RPI. Clemson's RPI has fallen a little bit. South Carolina's has fallen as well due to their recent losses. Clemson's RPI dropped after last weekend. And, a few weeks ago we had the argument, well, everybody's saying Clemson, ACCs, is it tougher? It's tougher. Wake Forest, the Boston, Well, right now, if you look at RPI, last weekend of the conference, RPI changes every day because teams lose, teams win. The top 5 teams, the top 5 RPIs in college baseball, A&M, Kentucky, Georgia, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Of those 5, how many are ACC schools? That would be 0. Of those 5, how many are SEC schools? That would be all 5.
It's worth noting here, Cole. I'm not arguing against you. It's worth noting North Carolina 6, Clemson 7, Florida State 8, Wake Forest 9.
There's some ACC schools in the top 10.
Virginia 12.
Just not in the top 5. Clemson's RPI dropped a little bit again after the Demon Deacons got them. South Carolina, last few weekends hadn't been good for the Gamecocks.
So you're saying your RPI is garbage if you're not in the top 5?
No, who said that? Not me.
I'm just asking if that's the line we're drawing here.
No, I'm just saying this proves my argument that the SEC is the toughest baseball conference. It's the toughest.
Look at Indiana State. I had never even heard of Indiana State until the basketball tournament this past year.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't make it into the NCAA tournament. I think they made a deep run in the NIT. But before that, I had never heard of Indiana State. Is that not where?
State.
Wait, is that where Larry Bird went to college?
You know what? I don't know the answer to that.
Is that where the only reason other reason I would have to know Indiana State?
In the D1 rankings, Tennessee is number 1.
He did go to Indiana State.
Is that where he went? So Tennessee's number 1 right now in the D1 rankings. They stayed at number 1. No movement from last week. Kentucky goes from 4 to 2, back to where they were earlier in the season. Arkansas moves from 5 to 3. Clemson drops from 2 to 4 with their Wake Forest sweep. Rounding out the top 10 of the D1 baseball rankings, A&M 5, Oregon State 6, North Carolina 7, Wake Forest 8, Georgia 9, and the Florida State Seminoles 10. South Carolina, where are they in this week's D1 rankings? Even though they got swept, they went from 13 to 24, dropped like a rock, but still in the rankings. Diesel
again projected as a 2 seed. That was prior to the back-to-back loss or the loss Could be back-to-back losses tonight against Tennessee.
I will say after they get swept this weekend against Tennessee, they will drop out of the top 25, in my opinion. I think they'll drop out. I really do. But to Brad's call, who asked if they would miss the tournament, they wouldn't miss the tournament because their strength of schedule and RPI is high enough to make the postseason.
It is a field of 64.
It is. And they've won enough games to make the tournament. However, you can't be excited if you're a South Carolina fan of the direction your team's headed after last week's Georgia sweep, getting swept, rather, potentially getting swept, series at least at the minimum, by Tennessee this weekend, and then the conference tournament in Hoover. What are you going to do in the conference tournament? You better have something up your sleeve, because if you do not, it's going to be Diesel, you said it right now, they're a 2 seed. If they get embarrassed, maybe they fall to a 3 seed, but South Carolina not ending the season the way they wanted to. I just don't see them making any run in the tournament, in the postseason. I
don't either. You might win a game in that region. Again, I already closed it. I don't know who they might face. Again, that's just a projection from 2 days ago, so things could probably change. Speaking of some interesting news there, Brooks Koepka just followed up a double bogey with a birdie, so he's back to -5. Xander Schauffele holds the lead through 14 at -12.
Jeez.
Colin Morikawa in second place at -11. Thigala in third place at -10. Scotty Scheffler, Detry, and Hubbard tied for fourth.
That
at
Chuba Hubbard,
-9.
he plays for the Panthers and in the PGA Tour. I'll tell you what, man. Xander Schauffele, Diesel, 12 under. I mean, I don't know. They always say, well, you can't lose a tournament. Or they say, you can't win it in the first round, but you sure can lose it. Well, I don't know if that's true, because yesterday, Xander getting off to the hot start that he did, I'm not saying he won the tournament yesterday, but, man, you set yourself up for success in a big way. And following it up like you did today?
Well, he's doing that, and granted, he's through 14, so he's still got 4 holes to go. He could end up this day -16.
He could.
Which would be nuts.
He could. I do not know when we should expect to hear any news regarding Scotty Scheffler. They still have charges on him. They haven't been dropped as of yet, to my knowledge. But he has 3 charges, one of which are a felony.
In what world, Cole, does somebody charged with a felony just get to walk out and go play a round of golf?
I guess if you're the Scotty Scheffler, you do, right?
Right? If you're anybody else, right? Not even if you're just a random dude, right? You or I are in that situation. We're just driving by, we're trying to get to work, and we don't obey the officer's instructions closely enough. We get charged with a felony. Are you and I going to work that day? No, we're not.
Probably not.
No, we're not. So I don't think there's any way that
the latest
he's not walking scot-free.
The latest from his attorney, Diesel, attorney of Scheffler, says he did not do anything wrong. Says Scotty Scheffler's attorney. Shocker, right? He says the quote from the attorney was, due to the combination of event traffic and a traffic fatality in the area, it was a very chaotic situation, which I think we can all agree with, right?
Sure.
He was proceeding as directed by another traffic officer and driving a marked player's car with credentials visible. In the confusion, Scotty is alleged to have disregarded a different officer's traffic signals, resulting in these charges. It's tough. It's a tough situation. But I will say this. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in golf.
We need to see, no, not even close, right? We
This
need to
is
see,
crazy.
the only thing I could think of is when Happy Gilmore was punching Bob Barker in the stomach on the course. No, nothing else like this. We need to see body cam footage of what actually happened here. I agree. We all need to see footage of this, because the allegations of assaulting an officer, I think, is super heavy-handed for my guess as to what happened here.
I don't know that there will be body cam with that big old yellow, banana coat he had on.
But there's plenty of vehicles around. I find it, somewhat difficult to believe that there's not a camera anywhere that caught the footage of what happened. right? I mean, if it comes out that he tried to like grab his wrist or something like that, if the officer tried to grab Scotty Scheffler's wrist and he's like, get your hand off me. I'm a golfer. Don't grab me. I'm a golfer. You could injure me.
I wanted to play.
And he resisted by like pulling his hand back. If they're going to felony charge him for that.
I wanted to play this audio from his lawyer, Steve Romans, Romines. Romines?
Close enough.
Close enough. This is some audio from his lawyer before we hit a break, explaining his side of things.
Advised to, go around and turn left into the facility to come and, do his pre-round preparation. The officer who charged him obviously didn't know that. And so, he did what he was instructed to do. And, the officer who arrested him didn't think he was supposed to be doing that. And so that's where the miscommunication occurred. Whether they were part of the same, they were on radio together, the two officers, as to why they, didn't believe he was allowed to do that or whatever. He's in a marked courtesy vehicle with his credentials out and did what he was instructed to do.
He's definitely. Let's hear this.
Is it possible that prosecutors may drop these charges?
Anything's possible. Okay. Sure.
That's the question I ask, right?
At this point, I think it's probable. I think these charges are dropped before the end of the day.
So his lawyer has to have already talked to the prosecutors in order to get the bond set. So either they'll get dropped or they'll get a trial. I want a trial. Let's get a trial.
Man. So we had audio earlier in the show. Scotty, immediately following his round, being interviewed by the press. He had some interesting things to say, Cole. He talked about how he spent his time stretching in his jail cell. He's like, that was a first for me. Wasn't sure if I was actually going to play. When he was asked about his decision to refocus and go play today, he said, I came here for a golf tournament. It's interesting. He also said, he was also asked, how long did it take for you to feel normal out there on the course? He talked about, his nerves and not having time to go out and do his normal routine to get ready for a round. He said a few holes. I'm a big routine guy. And then he just went out and went par, birdie, par, birdie, par through the first 6 holes.
Madcraft says Rory getting divorced and Scotty getting arrested in the same week. That's a pretty good parlay. I'd like to have $1 on.
Who had that on their bingo card today? Oh man, looking forward to to closing out the show with you guys on the way next. When we come back, Cole, we're going to talk about a creepy new app that I think is moving us towards the direction of creating digital ghosts. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson. You Tolos. Thanks for watching the whole show. We'll be back to cap it off next. Cole, what better way to finish a sports show than to not talk sports at all?
Oh,
The last
man.
5 minutes of the show. Cole, Eternal Applications, a web hosting company based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, launched what they're calling an afterlife messaging platform that allows people to create personalized messages that will be delivered to family and friends after they die. People will be able to use an easy-to-use text, video, and audio tools to record and send messages to your loved ones after you die.
Wait a minute.
The company aims to provide, quote, peace of mind to users who want their legacy, wisdom, or life stories shared and remembered. Quote, losing a loved one is among the most emotionally painful things that can occur and can continue to hurt for months, even years. Eternal Applications offers users a way to help their loved ones through this time. Words fade over time, but by creating a message your loved one gets to replay or reread as often as they want is priceless.
You know, I don't think it's going to work. Let me tell you why. There are a lot of people that when their loved ones die, they don't want to ever hear their loved ones again. I didn't say me. I said some.
You know, first of all, there's a Black Mirror episode about exactly this.
Is there?
It's about a woman whose boyfriend dies or is dying, and he uploads essentially a lot of information into an AI service, and then she has an AI boyfriend. And at first she's like, she's scared of it, she's skeptical of it, then she comes to love it, then she comes to hate it, and it becomes even more heartbreaking because she realizes it's not the real thing.
Oh, she didn't know.
No, she knows.
Oh.
She was skeptical, and then she signed up for it anyway because she was having a tough time dealing with her boyfriend passing away. I swear, Cole, we are like this close to creating digital ghosts. You know, just like imagine walking into a room, Cole, and you've got this, what is it called again? Eternal Applications thing on your Amazon Alexa. You just walk into a room and then you hear your dead father like whispering words of affirmation. You got this, sweetie. You're going to have a great day.
Nah, that's creepy.
You know what I think would be a fun way to use this though, Cole?
Uh-uh.
Have you ever heard people say things like, when I die, I'm totally going to come back and haunt you?
Yeah, I have.
You could do this. You could do this.
People you don't like, you mean?
I mean,
I'm down for that.
It depends on your sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like, what if you were like one of those spooky people, right? And you decided, all right, I want to sign up for this, and I want my dead husband to be able to be like, ooh.
That's creepy,
Your
man.
lost sock is in the dryer.
We need some legislation to control this AI stuff. I mean, you didn't like Randy Travis AI. I don't like this.
No, it's dumb.
This is weird.
This is bad. This is really bad. Like, so I understand the sentiment. Okay, like I can imagine how if let's just say, for example, you are a young father and you've got a young child and you've got something terminal, right? And you want to be able to record some messages and life lessons and things like that. That's like the good-natured, wholesome root of this.
Sure.
But I just know, Cole, that anytime any technology comes about, people always use it for the worst reasons immediately.
That's true.
Like, I love that scene in Tropic Thunder when he's like, yeah, man, like video, DVD, Blu-ray, it's whichever one porn adopted, that's the one that was going to get used. Like, people always take it to a weird extreme place really fast.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. I don't like, listen, death's weird enough as it is, right?
Yeah.
You don't want more death.
Madcraft says that's an episode. Yeah, it's an episode of Black Mirror. It's a weird, creepy episode, man.
Sounds like it.
Did you ever watch Black Mirror?
No, I never have.
Oh, dude. So it's a series. First season is all you really need to watch. After that, don't worry about it. Like, Netflix got a hold of it. It was a British show, and it was fantastic. And then Netflix got a hold of it, they ruined it. Like, they're not worst episodes. They're watchable, but it's not season one. Season one was weird.
I'll watch that if you'll watch Ozark.
I've watched Ozark. I watched Ozark season one. Didn't like it.
What?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
You're the only human being to ever say that.
It was a cut rate Breaking Bad.
No.
Yeah.
No, don't do that to me. I was in a good mood.
It's Breaking Bad with a blue filter on it.
I was in a good mood, Diesel.
Wow. you're going to have to kill me.
I love it. I love it. All right. We'll see you on Monday, Tolos. Follow us on Twitter. In the meantime, this weekend, at Diesel on Radio, at D. Cole Bryson. We appreciate you.